Tonight we are traveling into an age before memory, when the mountains of Greece were young in the imagination of those who gazed upon them. The sea lies dark beneath a sky crowded with stars. A cool wind drifts across rocky hillsides, scented with wild thyme and olive leaves. Far below, waves strike distant shores with a slow and steady rhythm. Sacred fires flicker beside lonely shrines. Somewhere in the darkness, an owl calls from a cypress tree. As you settle into this ancient world, take a moment to relax. If you enjoy journeys like this one, perhaps consider liking the video and subscribing for more peaceful explorations of mythology and history. And before sleep carries you away, you might share your location and local time in the comments below, joining listeners from distant corners of the world beneath the same night sky. Tonight's story begins with a mystery. How could wisdom be born from power? How could a goddess emerge, not from a mother's arms, but from the mind of a king? To understand the birth of Athena, you must first walk backward through the long pathways of myth, into a world where even the ruler of heaven feared the future. The story begins after a war that shook the foundations of creation itself. The great struggle between the Titans and the Olympians had ended. For 10 terrible years, the universe had trembled beneath their conflict. Lightning had split mountains. Oceans had boiled. The sky had echoed with cries that no mortal ear would ever hear. Now silence slowly returned. The defeated Titans lay imprisoned in the depths of Tartarus, beneath layers of darkness deeper than any ocean trench. Above them rose the world of the victors. Olympus stood radiant against the heavens. Its shining halls glowed with golden light. Its marble columns seemed untouched by time. Clouds drifted around its slopes like pale rivers flowing through the sky. At its summit sat Zeus, king of gods, master of storms, lord of thunder. His victories had made him ruler of the cosmos. Yet victory did not bring peace. Ancient Greek storytellers understood something that still feels true today. The greatest fears often arrive after success. When a long struggle finally ends, a new question emerges. How long can happiness last? As you walk through the halls of Olympus, torchlight dances across polished floors. Golden cups stand upon carved tables. The scent of roasted offerings rises from sacred altars. Music drifts softly from distant chambers where lesser gods celebrate the end of war. Yet beneath the celebration, uncertainty lingers. Zeus himself feels it. He remembers his father, the Titan Kronos. Long before the Titan War, Kronos ruled the universe. He had once believed himself invincible. Then a prophecy came, a warning, a prediction carried from ancient powers older than the Titans themselves. The prophecy declared that one of Kronos' children would overthrow him. Fear entered his heart, and fear changed everything. Each time his wife Rhea gave birth, Kronos swallowed the child whole. Hestia disappeared into darkness, then Demeter, then Hera, then Hades, then Poseidon, one after another. The king of the universe consumed his own children in a desperate attempt to defeat destiny. But destiny waited patiently. When Zeus was born, Rhea hid the infant on the island of Crete. Kronos swallowed a stone instead. Years later, Zeus returned. The prophecy came true. The son defeated the father. The king fell. The child inherited the throne. Now as Zeus sits within his palace above the clouds, those memories remain vivid. The ancient Greeks often viewed history as a cycle. Generations replaced generations. Kings rose and fell. Even the gods could not entirely escape this pattern. The lesson appeared again and again in myth. Power always carried vulnerability. A ruler's greatest threat often came from within the family itself. Outside Olympus, moonlight spreads across forests and valleys. Ships move slowly through dark harbors. Fishermen secure ropes against wooden docks. In small villages, families gather around hearth fires. Most know little of the concerns occupying the minds of gods, yet their lives remain connected. The Greeks believed divine events echoed through every corner of existence. What happened on Olympus shaped the fate of mortals below. As the years pass after the Titan War, Zeus establishes order. He divides the cosmos among his brothers. Poseidon receives the sea. Hades receives the underworld. Zeus keeps the sky. The arrangement appears stable. The universe seems balanced, but balance can be fragile. One evening, while crimson sunlight fades beyond distant mountains, Zeus walks alone along a terrace overlooking the world. Clouds drift beneath him. The air feels cool against his skin. Far below, lightning flickers within a distant storm. A strange unease settles over him. Some ancient traditions suggest this feeling arrived long before any prophecy was spoken aloud. Perhaps fate announces itself through intuition. Perhaps some part of the soul senses approaching change. Historians continue to debate how early versions of the myth developed. Different regions of Greece preserve different details, yet nearly every version agrees on one point. Something was coming, something important, something capable of reshaping Olympus forever. Not far from Zeus's palace lived a goddess unlike any other. Her name was Metis. The Greeks associated her with wisdom, but not the wisdom of books, not the wisdom of age. Metis represented cleverness, insight, strategic thought, the ability to see hidden paths through difficult situations. Her name itself carried meanings connected to intelligence and cunning. In many ways, she embodied the mental qualities that allowed Zeus to win the Titan War. Some traditions even say she helped him free the siblings trapped within Kronos. Without her guidance, victory might never have been possible. As you imagine Metis, you do not see a warrior. You do not see a queen. Instead, you sense a quiet presence, a mind always observing, always understanding more than others realize. Ancient storytellers often described wisdom in this way. Not loud, not boastful, but powerful nonetheless. One night, beneath a sky bright with stars, Zeus and Metis walked together through sacred groves near Olympus. Silver moonlight filters through olive branches. Cicadas sing softly among the leaves. The scent of earth and growing things drifts through the air. Their conversation remains private. No mortal hears it. Perhaps no other god does either. Yet something changes during these meetings. Affection grows. Trust deepens. The king of gods finds himself drawn toward the goddess of wisdom. Still the universe watches. The fates continue their endless work. Far away beside primordial springs, hidden among ancient rocks, older powers stir. Some stories speak of Gaia, the earth herself. Others mention Uranos, the ancient sky. Different traditions preserve different memories. No one can know with certainty which version came first, but all point toward the same approaching shadow. A prophecy waits beyond the horizon, a warning capable of reaching even the throne of heaven. For now, however, the warning remains unspoken. The stars shine peacefully above Olympus. The sea continues its endless breathing against distant shores. The sacred fires burn low, and Zeus, king of the universe, allows himself a rare moment of contentment. He does not yet realize that the greatest challenge of his reign will not come from monsters. It will not come from titans. It will not come from war. It will come from a child who has not yet been born, a child whose arrival is already moving quietly through the fabric of fate, like a distant storm beyond the edge of sight, waiting. The night deepens over Olympus. Stars drift slowly across the heavens, bright above the sleeping world. Cool winds move through marble colonnades. Torches flicker beside golden doors. The scent of cedar smoke rises from sacred braziers that burn throughout the palace of Zeus. You continue your journey through the first years of the Olympian age. The Great War has ended, yet its memory remains everywhere. When you walk beside the gods through the shining halls of Olympus, you can still feel the shadow of old battles. Deep scars mark distant mountains where lightning once shattered stone. Islands scattered across the Aegean Sea seem peaceful now. Yet ancient storytellers imagined many of them as silent witnesses to cosmic conflict. The Greeks rarely saw victory as permanent. Every triumph contained the seed of another challenge. Every beginning carried traces of an ending. That belief quietly moves beneath tonight's story. Zeus sits upon his throne of polished stone and gold. His eagle rests nearby. Thunderclouds drift lazily beyond the open terraces. From this height he can see rivers winding through valleys, ships crossing dark waters, and tiny points of fire where mortals gather around evening meals. The world appears orderly. That is precisely what he fought to create. For years he devoted himself to strengthening this new order. Laws among the gods are established. Sacred duties are assigned. The powers of Olympus become clearer with each passing season. Poseidon rules the sea from magnificent underwater palaces, where green light filters through shifting waves. Hades governs the dead beneath the earth, surrounded by silent rivers and endless shadows. Hera stands beside Zeus as queen of heaven. Demeter blesses the fields. Hestia tends sacred hearth fires. The younger gods begin finding their own places within the growing divine family. Yet beneath this stability lies a hidden tension. You sense it during quiet moments. The tension appears whenever Zeus pauses alone. Sometimes he stands on a balcony, overlooking the world. Sometimes he walks through moonlit gardens, planted along the slopes of Olympus. Sometimes he watches storms forming beyond distant horizons. In these moments his thoughts drift backward. back toward Kronos, back toward the prophecy, back toward the terrible cycle that shaped his family. The Greeks understood that memory can be heavier than armor. A wound may heal, a battle may end, yet certain fears remain. One evening, as the last glow of sunset fades from the western sky, Zeus visits a sacred grove near the palace. Ancient oak trees grow there. Their roots disappear deep into the mountain. Their branches seem to touch the stars. A small spring flows between moss-covered stones. Its water catches moonlight like liquid silver. The grove feels older than Olympus itself, older than the reign of Zeus, perhaps older than the Titans. Ancient sanctuaries often occupied places like this. Even centuries later, Greeks sought such locations for worship. Natural springs, sacred trees, caves, and mountain peaks were believed to carry traces of divine presence. As Zeus walks among the trees, he notices an unusual silence. The wind has stopped. The leaves no longer rustle. Even the water seems strangely quiet. Then a bird appears, an owl. It settles upon a low branch and watches him. The sight lasts only a moment. The bird soon disappears into darkness. Yet the encounter lingers in his thoughts. Owls would later become deeply connected with Athena, but that future remains hidden. For now, it is merely a curious sign, or perhaps something more. Ancient listeners hearing this tale might have wondered the same thing. Did fate already announce itself? Or do humans simply find meaning after events unfold? Another interpretation survives. Some researchers believe these symbolic details entered the story later, after Athena became widely worshipped. Yet myths often grow because symbols feel true. Whether the owl appeared in the earliest versions hardly matters. Its presence captures something essential. Wisdom is approaching, though no one fully understands how. In the following months, Zeus continues meeting with Metis. The goddess possesses an unusual calmness. She rarely seeks attention. Unlike many immortals, she seems uninterested in status. Instead, she listens, observes, thinks. When disputes arise among gods, her advice often resolves them. When problems seem impossible, she notices hidden solutions. You begin to understand why Zeus values her company. Power commands, wisdom guides. The two qualities rarely exist in equal measure. Yet together they become formidable. One night they stand beside a cliff overlooking the sea. Far below, waves strike black rocks. Foam glows pale beneath moonlight. The air tastes faintly of salt. A distant ship moves slowly across the horizon, its sail illuminated by starlight. Metis speaks softly, not of war, not of power, but of balance. She reminds Zeus that ruling requires more than strength. A king who governs through fear eventually stands alone. A ruler who listens creates loyalty. The conversation seems simple, yet Zeus remembers it long afterward. Perhaps this is why Metis fascinates him. She speaks truths others avoid. The Greeks admired this quality. Wisdom was not merely knowledge. It was the courage to understand reality clearly, even when reality felt uncomfortable. As seasons pass, their bond deepens. Throughout Greece, life continues beneath the gaze of the gods. Farmers harvest olives beneath golden autumn sunlight. Fishermen repair nets along busy harbors. Merchants travel dusty roads between distant cities. Sacrifices rise from temple altars. Festivals fill sanctuaries with music and laughter. The world flourishes, yet hidden forces continue moving beneath the surface. One night Zeus dreams. Dreams matter deeply within Greek tradition. Many believe divine messages arrive through sleep. Temples dedicated to healing often encouraged sacred dreaming. Visions carried meaning, warnings, guidance, prophecies. In this dream, Zeus stands upon a vast plain. No mountains rise around him. No sea borders the horizon. Only endless darkness. Before him grows a single tree. Its roots descend beyond sight. Its branches reach toward the stars. At first the tree appears healthy. Then it begins to split. One trunk becomes two. Two become many. The branches spread across the heavens. Soon they cover the entire sky. Among them, a bright shape emerges. Neither child nor adult. Neither warrior nor ruler. A figure made of light. The figure says nothing. Yet Zeus feels watched, judged, measured. Then the dream ends. He awakens before dawn. The palace remains quiet. The stars still shine beyond the windows. No explanation arrives. No certainty follows. Only unease. The Greeks often included dreams like this, because dreams occupy a strange space between knowledge and mystery. You sense something important, yet you cannot fully understand it, just as Zeus cannot. Days later, another sign appears. While sacrifices burn upon a sacred altar, the flames suddenly twist against the wind. Instead of rising upward, they bend eastward. The priests observing the ritual exchange uneasy glances. No one agrees on the meaning. Some call it coincidence, others suspect divine intervention. Historians continue to debate how ancient Greeks interpreted such signs in daily life. What survives in literature often reflects dramatic storytelling rather than ordinary experience. Still, one thing remains clear. The ancient world paid close attention to omens. The universe was believed to speak through unusual events, and increasingly unusual events seem to surround Zeus. The king of gods notices them, but he cannot yet see their pattern. Not far away beyond the slopes of Olympus, older powers continue watching. Gaia remembers. The earth never forgets. The sky remembers as well. And somewhere beyond mortal sight, the threads of fate continue weaving. The prophecy has not yet been spoken. The warning has not yet arrived. Yet it moves closer with every passing day, like distant thunder hidden beyond the mountains. Too far away to hear clearly, close enough to feel. And soon, very soon, the silence surrounding Zeus and Metis will finally be broken. Dawn arrives softly over Olympus. The first light spreads across distant mountains, turning their peaks pale gold. Mist gathers in valleys far below. Along the coastlines of Greece, fishermen push boats into calm waters, while seabirds circle above quiet harbors. You remain among the immortals. The story now turns toward the figure standing quietly behind much of what is to come. Metis. Unlike Zeus, she does not command storms. Unlike Poseidon, she does not shake the seas. Unlike Hera, she does not sit upon a magnificent throne. Her power is less visible, yet perhaps even more important. As you walk through the gardens of Olympus, you begin to understand why the ancient Greeks remembered her. Wisdom often hides where few people think to look. The name Metis carried many meanings. It suggested intelligence, cunning foresight, and careful judgment. It described the ability to recognize opportunities invisible to others. In a world filled with powerful gods, Metis possessed something rarer than strength. She understood consequences. This quality made her valuable. It also made her dangerous. The Greeks frequently told stories in which intelligence overcame brute force. Odysseus would later embody this ideal among mortals. But long before his adventures, Metis represented that same principle among the gods. She could see beyond the present moment. She could imagine possibilities hidden inside events. Perhaps that is why fate became interested in her. One morning you find her walking beside a spring near Olympus. The water flows gently between smooth stones. Wildflowers grow along the banks. Dragonflies hover above the surface. The air feels cool and fresh. Metis kneels beside the water. For a long moment she studies her reflection. Then she gazes beyond it, as though looking into something deeper. Ancient storytellers often connected wisdom with water. Streams reflected the sky. Springs emerged from hidden places. Rivers traveled long distances before reaching the sea. Knowledge seemed similar. Its sources were often unseen. A traveler approaching the spring would see only a peaceful goddess resting beside the water. Yet beneath her calm exterior, thoughts move constantly. Questions, possibilities, patterns. She notices things others miss. This ability has already shaped history. Without Metis, Zeus might never have defeated Kronos. Several traditions preserve versions of her assistance. In one story, she prepares a powerful mixture that forces Kronos to release the children he swallowed. In another, she provides guidance that helps Zeus navigate dangers beyond ordinary understanding. Different versions survive. No one knows which came first. Yet all agree on a central idea. Metis helped create the Olympian age. Her influence runs through its foundations. Perhaps Zeus understands this better than anyone. Their relationship deepens gradually. Not through grand declarations, not through dramatic confrontations, but through conversation, shared understanding, mutual respect. One evening, as the sun sinks behind distant islands, they sit together upon a terrace overlooking the world. Clouds drift below. The horizon glows orange and crimson. Far away, storms flicker over the sea. The scent of olive wood smoke rises from sacred fires burning throughout Olympus. Zeus speaks about leadership, about responsibility, about the burden of maintaining order after war. Metis listens. Then she offers her thoughts. Power alone, she says, cannot preserve peace. Fear may compel obedience, but wisdom earns trust. The words are simple, yet they linger. The ancient Greeks often imagined wisdom as a companion to authority, rather than its servant. A ruler without judgment became dangerous. A ruler guided by wisdom created stability. Perhaps this is one reason Athena would later become so beloved. Her story begins here. Within conversations like these, within ideas quietly exchanged beneath evening skies. As months pass, signs continue appearing around Olympus. Small signs, Subtle signs, the kind that invite interpretation. One night, a meteor crosses the heavens. Its silver trail glows briefly before fading into darkness. The gods notice it. Some regard it as beautiful. Others view it as a warning. The meaning remains uncertain. Such uncertainty mattered deeply within Greek mythology. Prophecies often revealed only fragments. Omens suggested possibilities rather than certainties. The future remained hidden behind veils. Even the gods rarely saw it clearly. Not long afterward, another dream visits Zeus. This one feels stronger, more vivid. In the dream, he stands upon a mountain peak beneath unfamiliar stars. A woman approaches through swirling mist. Her face remains hidden, yet her presence feels ancient. Older than Olympus, older than the Titans, older even than memory. She carries an olive branch. As she draws nearer, the branch transforms. Its leaves become bronze. Its trunk becomes polished wood. Suddenly it resembles a spear, then a tree once more. The image shifts again and again, peace becoming strength, strength becoming peace. The woman finally speaks. One sentence, only one. What is born from wisdom cannot be ruled by fear. Then she vanishes. Zeus awakens before sunrise. His heart feels heavy. The dream troubles him, not because he understands it, because he does not. Outside his chamber, dawn slowly brightens the sky. The world appears unchanged, yet something has shifted. Dreams rarely arrive without purpose. At least that is what many Greeks believed. And this dream feels purposeful. Though its meaning remains hidden, you walk through Olympus in the days that follow. The palace seems unchanged. Gods attend feasts. Musicians perform. Messengers travel between divine realms. Yet an undercurrent of expectation lingers. It resembles the atmosphere before a storm. Not fear exactly. Anticipation. The sense that events are gathering momentum. Meanwhile, Metis continues her quiet observations. Some stories suggest she becomes aware of approaching danger before Zeus does. This possibility fascinates many modern interpreters. If wisdom can recognize patterns, perhaps she notices what others overlook. Perhaps she senses fate drawing near. One evening, she climbs a hillside overlooking the western sea. The sun has already disappeared. Purple twilight spreads across the horizon. Stars emerge one by one. The wind carries the scent of salt and distant rain. There alone, beneath the growing darkness, she experiences a vision. Ancient traditions differ concerning its details. Some versions omit it entirely. Others describe it vividly. In this telling, she sees two birds circling high above the ocean. One shines with golden light. The other glows silver. They fly together peacefully. Then suddenly the silver bird disappears. The golden bird continues alone. Yet moments later, a brighter shape emerges from within its chest. Not a bird, something greater, something radiant. The vision ends. No explanation follows, only mystery. Metis watches the stars for a long time afterward. Perhaps she understands more than she reveals. Perhaps not. The ancient storytellers leave room for uncertainty, and uncertainty itself often becomes part of wisdom, knowing that not everything can be known. Far beyond Olympus, older powers continue their silent observations. Gaia feels the movement of destiny through the earth. Ancient springs murmur beneath mountains. Sacred groves whisper in the wind. The universe itself seems to be waiting. Then at last the moment approaches. The warning long hidden among dreams and omens prepares to reveal itself. A prophecy is coming, one that will reach the ears of Zeus, one that will awaken fears buried deep within his memory. And once those words are spoken, neither Zeus nor Metis will ever again walk the same path they follow tonight beneath the stars. The stars remain bright above Olympus. You follow Zeus and Metis into a quieter part of the divine world, where the shining palace fades behind groves of oak and laurel. The night air feels cool. Dew gathers on the grass. Somewhere below the mountain, a river moves through darkness with a soft and patient sound. For a time, everything seems peaceful. Yet peace in myth is often only a veil. Beyond the groves, beyond the terraces, beyond the sleeping halls of the gods, older powers begin to stir. Gaia, the earth, lies beneath all things. She holds the roots of forests, the bones of mountains, the graves of forgotten ages. She remembers the first sky, the first darkness, and the first wounds of creation. The Greeks imagined Gaia not simply as land. She was memory itself. She was the deep ground beneath every throne. No king ruled above her without standing upon her body. And now she knows something Zeus does not. Some traditions say Gaia speaks first. Others say Ouranos, the ancient sky, joins her warning. Surviving ancient literature does not preserve every detail in the same way. Historians continue to debate how old these versions are. But the heart of the prophecy remains clear. Metis will bear a child, first a daughter, a goddess of wisdom and warlike counsel, then perhaps a son who will become greater than his father. The words move through the unseen world like wind before thunder. You can almost feel them passing through sacred groves and mountain springs. Leaves tremble without a breeze. Flames bend strangely on distant altars. In mortal villages far below, dogs lift their heads in the night, listening to something no human ear can hear. A warning has entered creation. Zeus receives it in a place of deep silence. Perhaps Gaia rises through the earth itself, her voice slow and ancient. Perhaps an oracle speaks in a trance beside a sacred fire. Perhaps the warning arrives through a dream, as many divine messages did in Greek imagination. No one can know exactly. That uncertainty gives the moment its power. You see Zeus standing alone beneath a sky heavy with stars. The air grows colder. The torches near him burn low. Then the prophecy reaches him. Metis carries destiny within her. Her child will be extraordinary, and after the daughter, another child may come. A son stronger than Zeus. A son who may overthrow him. The words strike more deeply than any spear. For an instant, Zeus does not move. He is no longer only the king of Olympus. He is a son remembering his father. He sees Kronos again. Kronos swallowing his children. Kronos trying to hide from fate. Kronos failing. The old cycle returns like a shadow climbing the palace walls. Father against child. Ruler against heir. Fear against destiny. Ancient audiences would have understood the danger immediately. This was not only a family problem among gods. It reflected a deep concern in Greek thought power is never completely secure. Every king inherits both authority and anxiety. Zeus has spent years building order. He has divided the cosmos. He has placed the Titans beneath guard. He has raised Olympus into splendor. Yet one unborn child can threaten everything. That is the terrible intimacy of prophecy. It does not always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from love. Metis remains nearby, unaware of the full storm gathering in Zeus's mind. Or perhaps she senses it. Wisdom often hears silence before others hear words. She notices the change in him, the way his gaze grows distant, the way his hands tighten, the way thunder mutters faintly in the clouds beyond the terrace. She asks what troubles him. Zeus does not answer at once. Between them lies moonlight. Between them lies trust. And now between them, fate. Some researchers believe this myth preserves a memory of older goddess traditions, absorbed into the Olympian order. Metis, as wisdom, becomes internalized by Zeus. Her power does not disappear. It is taken into the structure of kingship itself. But for the listener within the myth, the meaning is more immediate. Zeus is afraid. That fear does not make him weak. It makes him dangerous. He loves order. He desires permanence. He wants to be unlike Kronos, yet the warning tempts him toward the very path his father chose. As the night stretches on, Zeus walks through the palace alone. His footsteps echo across cold marble. Golden lamps burn along the walls. Their light trembles against painted scenes of victory. Here are the Olympians rising. Here are the Titans falling. Here is Zeus lifting thunder in triumph. The images once comforted him. Now they accuse him. What is victory worth if it must be defended forever? What is kingship if every child becomes a possible enemy? Outside clouds gather around Olympus. A low storm forms above the sea. Lightning flashes silently within it. The sign feels unmistakable, yet its meaning remains uncertain. Is the storm a warning against the unborn child, or a warning against Zeus himself? Greek myth rarely answers such questions plainly. It leaves you standing in the charged air between choice and fate. By dawn, Zeus has made no decision, but something within him has changed. He looks at Metis differently now, not without affection, not without admiration, but with fear mixed into both. This is the first fracture, a small one, almost invisible. Yet every tragedy begins with such a fracture. Metis feels it. When morning light touches the mountain, she stands beside the spring where she once studied her reflection. The water appears calm, but beneath its surface small currents move in secret. She places her fingers into the cold stream. For a moment she sees not her own face, but a helmeted figure surrounded by brightness. A daughter, a mystery, a future. Then the vision vanishes. The water becomes ordinary again. Birdsong returns to the grove. The world continues, but nothing is truly ordinary now. The prophecy has been spoken. The unborn child has entered the story. And Zeus, who once defeated a father, ruled by fear, must now decide whether fear will rule him too. Morning sunlight washes across the slopes of Olympus. The sky appears clear. White clouds drift above distant mountains. Far below, shepherds guide flocks across grassy hillsides. Merchant ships glide through sparkling waters. Temple fires burn peacefully in sanctuaries scattered throughout Greece. To mortal eyes, the world seems calm. Yet within the palace of Zeus, an invisible struggle has begun. The prophecy lingers. It follows him through corridors lined with gold. It waits beside his throne. It echoes beneath every celebration. Metis will bear a daughter, then perhaps a son greater than his father. The words refuse to fade. You walk beside Zeus through the highest terraces of Olympus. The wind carries the scent of pine forests and distant rain. Eagles circle far overhead. Thunderclouds gather along the horizon like dark thoughts taking shape. For days, he tells no one. Not Hera, not Poseidon, not even Metis. The burden remains his alone. Ancient Greek myths often reveal a painful truth. The higher a ruler rises, the fewer people he can trust with his deepest fears. Zeus has authority over the heavens, yet authority offers little comfort against prophecy. The king of gods discovers something many mortals know well. Power cannot command certainty. One afternoon, he enters a chamber rarely visited by others. The room lies deep within the palace. Tall windows overlook the sea. Bronze braziers burn fragrant cedar wood. Their smoke drifts slowly upward into shadows. Along the walls stand ancient objects gathered from earlier ages. Relics from before the Titan War. Fragments of forgotten history. Among them rests a stone. Simple, gray, unremarkable. Yet Zeus stops before it. The stone carries enormous significance. It is the stone Kronos swallowed instead of Zeus. The object that saved his life. The object that changed the destiny of the universe. For a long time he studies it. Cold memories return. The screams of war. The terror of childhood stories. The image of a father consumed by fear. Kronos believed prophecy could be defeated. He believed control would bring safety. Instead, every attempt to escape fate guided him directly toward it. The lesson seems obvious, yet fear rarely listens to lessons. Fear speaks its own language. Fear whispers at night. Fear asks questions. What if the prophecy is true? What if history repeats itself? What if everything you built disappears? The questions circle endlessly through Zeus's mind. Outside sunlight fades. The sea grows darker. Torches appear one by one across Olympus. Their warm glow reflects from marble columns. Musicians play softly during evening feasts. Laughter echoes through distant halls. Yet Zeus remains apart from the celebration. His thoughts have become a battlefield. Not long afterward, another omen arrives. This one proves harder to ignore. Late at night, while storms roll across the sea, Zeus dreams again. The dream feels more vivid than those before. You stand beside him within the vision. The sky above is black. No stars shine. No moon appears. Only darkness. At the center of a vast plain stands a throne. Zeus approaches it. At first it seems familiar. Then he notices something unsettling. The throne is cracked. Lightning has split its surface. Grass grows through the fractures. Time itself appears to be reclaiming it. As he draws nearer, he sees a figure seated there. A child. The face remains hidden beneath shadows. Yet the child wears a crown. Thunder rolls across the dreamscape. The figure slowly rises, then speaks. Every throne inherits a future. Nothing more. The child vanishes. The dream ends. Zeus awakens immediately. The storm outside continues. Rain strikes the palace roofs. Lightning flashes beyond the windows. For several moments, he sits motionless. The words linger. Every throne inherits a future. Ancient audiences often regarded dreams as messages wrapped in symbols. Understanding them required wisdom. And wisdom, perhaps ironically, is becoming the very source of Zeus's anxiety. The next morning, he seeks solitude among the mountain paths beyond Olympus. Mist drifts between cliffs. Waterfalls tumble through rocky valleys. Wildflowers sway beside narrow trails. The landscape feels peaceful, yet his thoughts remain restless. As he walks, he remembers conversations with Metis, her advice, her intelligence, her insight. He admires these qualities deeply. That admiration complicates everything. If the prophecy concerned an enemy, the choice might seem simple. But Metis is not an enemy. She is a trusted companion, perhaps even the person he respects most. This realization creates a painful contradiction. The Greeks understood such contradictions well. Many of their greatest myths emerge from conflicts between equally powerful truths. Zeus values wisdom. Zeus fears prophecy. Both statements are true, and now they collide. Later that evening, he finds Metis beside a sacred spring. The same spring where she often reflects. Moonlight ripples across the water. Silver fish move beneath the surface. The air smells faintly of wet earth and laurel leaves. Metis notices his troubled expression. Again she asks what burdens him. For a moment he considers telling her everything. The words nearly come. Then he hesitates. A strange silence follows. Neither speaks. The spring continues its gentle song. Somewhere among distant trees an owl calls. The sound feels strangely significant. The owl appeared before. Its presence returns now. A subtle callback woven through fate's design. Yet no one understands its meaning. Not fully. Not yet. Metis eventually turns back toward the water. Perhaps she chooses patience. Perhaps she already suspects the truth. Ancient traditions offer different possibilities. Another interpretation suggests she knew more than Zeus realized. Wisdom often recognizes hidden fears long before they are confessed. As weeks pass, the tension grows. The prophecy becomes impossible to ignore. Every unusual event seems connected to it. Every dream appears to point toward it. Even ordinary moments begin carrying symbolic weight. One morning, priests report a strange occurrence. An eagle and a serpent were seen fighting high above a sanctuary. Both disappeared into clouds. No clear outcome could be observed. The report spreads through Olympus. Many dismiss it. Others regard it as meaningful. Signs rarely arrive with explanations. That uncertainty gives them power. Zeus hears the story. His unease deepens. The universe seems filled with reminders, warnings, questions, possibilities. Meanwhile, unseen by most, destiny continues advancing. Metis carries within her the future foretold by prophecy. The daughter grows closer with every passing day. The mysterious child of dreams approaches reality, and Zeus, despite all his strength, finds himself standing before the same challenge that once confronted Kronos. Will he trust fate, or will he try to control it? The answer is still hidden, but the path toward it has already begun. Like a river flowing toward the sea, impossible to stop, perhaps impossible even to understand until the journey is complete. And somewhere beyond the sight of gods and mortals alike, the fates continue weaving their silent threads. The days pass quietly across Olympus. Sunlight warms the marble courtyards. Swallows dart through clear blue skies. Below the mountain, vineyards spread across gentle hills, and fishermen mend their nets beside shining harbors. To the world, little seems changed. Yet within Zeus, the struggle has reached its turning point. The prophecy no longer feels distant. It no longer belongs to the future. It lives beside him each day. It follows him through every hall and every garden. The warning spoken by Gaia and the ancient sky has become impossible to escape. A daughter, then perhaps a son greater than his father. The old fear has awakened completely. You walk beside Zeus during long evenings when he wanders alone among the highest slopes of Olympus. The wind grows colder. The stars appear sharper. Clouds gather and dissolve around the peaks. Again and again his thoughts return to Kronos. The memory has become a mirror. He once viewed his father as a monster. Now he begins to understand something more troubling. Kronos was afraid. Fear does not excuse cruelty, yet understanding its source makes the danger feel closer. The Greeks often explored this uncomfortable truth. The flaws we condemn in others may exist quietly within ourselves. Even gods cannot easily escape their own nature. One night, Zeus stands at the edge of a cliff overlooking the sleeping world. The sea glimmers beneath moonlight. Small village fires flicker in distant valleys. A cool breeze carries the scent of pine and salt. Above him stretches a sky crowded with stars. For a moment he remembers the dream of the cracked throne, the silent child. The warning, every throne inherits a future. The words have become impossible to forget. At last he reaches a decision. Whether it is wise remains uncertain. Whether it is inevitable remains one of mythology's enduring questions. But he chooses. And once the choice is made, destiny begins moving faster. The next day, Zeus seeks out Metis. He finds her in a grove of olive trees near a sacred spring. Sunlight filters through silver-green leaves. Water flows gently over smooth stones. The place feels peaceful, timeless. Metis smiles when she sees him. There is warmth between them. Trust, the kind of trust built through years of companionship. That trust makes what follows all the more tragic. Ancient versions of the story differ in their details. Some describe a conversation. Others mention transformation. A few preserve only the final outcome. Yet most agree upon the central event. Zeus uses cunning, the very quality associated with Metis herself. As they speak beside the spring, he proposes a game of transformations. The gods often changed shape. Birds became men. Women became streams. Divine forms shifted as easily as clouds. Such transformations were familiar within Greek mythology. Metis accepts. Perhaps she suspects nothing. Perhaps she understands more than she reveals. No surviving source can answer with certainty. The mystery remains. The two begin demonstrating their powers. Shapes change. Forms dissolve and reform. The air itself seems alive with magic. Then Zeus asks Metis to become something small, something tiny, a creature that could fit within his hand. She agrees. In some tellings, she becomes a fly. In others, a drop of water. Different traditions preserve different images. Whatever form she takes, the result remains the same. The moment arrives, and Zeus swallows her. The grove falls silent. The spring continues flowing. Leaves rustle softly overhead. Yet the world has changed forever. You stand in the stillness that follows. There is no battle, no scream, no thunder, only quiet. The Greeks often understood that the most important moments in life arrive without dramatic music. A single decision alters everything, and afterward the world appears unchanged. For a while, Zeus believes he has solved the problem. The prophecy cannot continue if Metis remains inside him. No second child can be born. No son can challenge his throne. The danger is contained, or so he hopes. The logic resembles Kronos' reasoning. This parallel is impossible to ignore. Ancient audiences certainly noticed it. The son who defeated a father for swallowing his children has now swallowed the mother of his own future child. History does not repeat exactly, but it echoes again and again. That pattern gives the myth much of its power. As evening approaches, Zeus returns to Olympus. The palace glows with golden torchlight. Servants prepare feasts. Music drifts through open halls. The king of gods resumes his duties. Outwardly, nothing appears unusual. Yet inwardly, something strange begins. Metis is gone, but not gone. Consumed, yet somehow present. Ancient storytellers insisted upon this paradox. Metis survives within Zeus. Her wisdom remains alive. Her voice remains alive. The Greeks found deep symbolism here. True wisdom cannot simply be destroyed. It becomes part of the one who possesses it. Some modern interpretations suggest the myth reflects the incorporation of older wisdom traditions into the authority of Zeus. Yet within the story itself, the meaning feels more personal. Metis continues to exist, hidden, waiting. Days pass, then weeks. Zeus experiences an unfamiliar sensation. Not pain, not illness, something subtler. At times he hears thoughts that do not feel entirely his own. Insights arrive unexpectedly. Solutions appear before problems fully emerge. His judgment becomes sharper. His understanding deepens. It is as though another intelligence now lives beside his own. Perhaps it does. One evening, he sits alone beneath a colonnade overlooking the sea. Sunset burns across the horizon. The sky glows red and gold. Below, waves crash against distant cliffs. As darkness approaches, he hears something. A voice. Soft, almost impossible to detect. For an instant, he believes the wind carried it. Then he recognizes it. Metis, not speaking aloud, speaking from within. The sound vanishes immediately. Yet its effect remains. A chill passes through him. He begins to realize that swallowing wisdom differs greatly from swallowing a threat. Wisdom changes the one who contains it. The days continue. Another omen appears. During a sacrifice at dawn, a strange light briefly shines above the altar fire. The priests observe it in silence. The light forms no clear shape. Yet many later claim it resembled a helmet. Others insist it looked like a bird. No agreement survives, only mystery. Historians continue debating such symbolic traditions. Did the stories grow after Athena's rise? Or did believers truly remember extraordinary signs? The answer remains hidden. Perhaps it always will. Meanwhile, deep within Zeus, something impossible is occurring. Life continues. Growth continues. The prophecy has not ended. It has simply changed form. The child remains unborn. Yet she is closer now than ever before. And though Zeus cannot fully see it, fate has already slipped beyond his control. For every attempt to imprison destiny creates a new path for destiny to travel. The stars rise above Olympus. The sacred fires burn low. The sea whispers against distant shores. And within the king of gods, hidden from every eye, wisdom patiently waits for the moment when it will finally emerge into the light. The seasons turn gently across the world. Summer sunlight warms the islands of the Aegean. Olive trees shimmer beneath clear skies. Merchants guide ships between distant ports. Pilgrims travel dusty roads towards sacred sanctuaries where offerings rise into the bright air. Life continues. Yet beneath the appearance of normality, something extraordinary is unfolding. You remain beside Zeus during the months after he swallowed Metis. At first he believes the matter's settled. The prophecy appears contained. The future seems secure. The feared son cannot be born. The threat has been removed, or so he tells himself. But deep within his thoughts, uncertainty remains. It waits quietly, like an ember hidden beneath ashes. One evening, while the sky glows with the final colors of sunset, Zeus stands upon a terrace overlooking the sea. The wind carries scents of salt and distant rain. Below, waves strike white cliffs in slow and rhythmic patterns. The scene feels peaceful. Then something unexpected happens. A sharp sensation flashes through his head. Brief, almost insignificant, gone before he can fully react. He frowns. The discomfort seems unusual. Immortals rarely experience anything resembling illness. Gods can suffer wounds. They can feel sorrow. They can endure punishment. But ordinary pain belongs largely to mortal life. Zeus dismisses the sensation. Perhaps it means nothing. Perhaps. The Greeks often understood fate in this way. Its earliest signs appear small, easy to ignore. Meaning only becomes visible later. Days pass. The sensation returns. Again it lasts only a moment. A flicker of discomfort behind his eyes. A faint pressure near his temples. Nothing more. Yet the intervals gradually shorten. The pains become more frequent, more difficult to dismiss. Meanwhile, strange dreams begin visiting him once again. One night, you stand beside him within another vision. This dream differs from those before. No cracked throne appears. No mysterious child waits in shadow. Instead, Zeus finds himself inside a vast temple. The structure seems endless. Marble columns stretch upward beyond sight. Golden lamps illuminate long corridors. Yet the temple stands empty, silent. Still, then he hears a sound. Metal striking metal. Once, twice, again. The ringing echoes through the immense chamber. He follows it. The sound grows louder, closer. At last he reaches a set of bronze doors. Behind them, the hammering continues. Steady, purposeful, like a craftsman forging armor. Or perhaps building something. Zeus places a hand upon the doors. The metal feels warm, almost alive. Before he can open them, he awakens. The dream dissolves. The sound remains. For a brief moment after waking, he still hears the distant hammering. Then silence returns. Ancient audiences would have recognized the importance of such imagery. The Greeks often imagined destiny as something crafted, shaped, forged through hidden processes beyond ordinary sight. Yet Zeus cannot understand the dream. Not yet. Outside his chamber, dawn begins brightening the eastern horizon. Birdsong drifts through the palace gardens. The world appears unchanged. But the mystery deepens. Weeks later, the headaches worsen. The discomfort arrives without warning. Sometimes while Zeus listens to petitions from gods and spirits. Sometimes during feasts. Sometimes while watching storms move across distant seas. The pain never lasts long. Yet each episode feels stronger than the last. Whispers begin spreading through Olympus. Nothing dramatic, only quiet observations. The king seems distracted. The king seems troubled. The king grows silent during conversations. No one knows the cause, not even Zeus himself. One afternoon, Hera watches him carefully during a gathering of the gods. Sunlight streams through tall windows. Golden cups gleam upon polished tables. Musicians play softly nearby. Yet Zeus barely notices. A sudden flash of pain forces him to close his eyes. Only for a moment. Still, Hera sees it. She says nothing, but concern lingers in her gaze. Different traditions describe the reactions of the Olympians in different ways. Some portray suspicion. Others suggest sympathy. The surviving stories leave room for interpretation. Such uncertainty makes the myth feel strangely human. Even among gods, not every thought becomes visible. Not every concern receives an explanation. As the weeks continue, another curious phenomenon emerges. Zeus begins hearing counsel. Not voices exactly. Something subtler. Ideas. Insights. Observations arriving before he consciously forms them. A dispute appears before the gods. The solution comes instantly. A complicated decision arises. The answer reveals itself with remarkable clarity. His wisdom grows sharper. Yet so do the headaches. The connection feels impossible to ignore. Deep within him, Metis remains alive. And perhaps not alone. One evening, he walks beyond the palace toward a grove sacred to ancient powers. Twilight spreads across the mountains. Mist gathers among distant valleys. The air feels cool against his skin. There, beneath an enormous oak tree, he encounters an old oracle. Some versions of the myth never mention such a meeting. Others preserve fragments of similar encounters. In this telling, the oracle appears as a mysterious figure wrapped in dark robes. The face remains hidden. The voice sounds neither young nor old. The oracle studies Zeus for a long moment. then speaks. You carry more than yourself. Nothing more. The figure turns away. Moments later, the grove stands empty. The encounter leaves Zeus unsettled. The words feel obvious, yet also cryptic. You carry more than yourself. What exactly does that mean? The question follows him back to Olympus. The Greeks loved such riddles. Wisdom often arrived disguised as uncertainty. Answers rarely appeared immediately. Meanwhile, signs continue emerging throughout the divine world. One night, sacred flames in several temples burn blue instead of gold. Priests record the event with great interest. Elsewhere, travelers report unusual owl sightings. Birds appearing at unexpected times, in unexpected places. The recurring symbol returns once again, a quiet callback to earlier omens. The owl watches. The owl waits. Yet its significance remains hidden. Historians continue debating why Athena became associated with owls. Perhaps the bird represented perception in darkness. Perhaps wisdom itself. Perhaps something older. No single explanation satisfies everyone. Like many aspects of mythology, mystery survives alongside meaning. As autumn approaches, Zeus's headaches intensify dramatically. The pains no longer resemble brief discomfort. They arrive like sudden storms. Powerful, unavoidable. At times, lightning flashes across the heavens in response. Clouds gather when no weather should exist. Thunder rolls through clear skies. The king of gods struggles to conceal what is happening, but concealment grows difficult. One night, the pain becomes so intense that he abandons a feast and retreats alone to the highest summit of Olympus. The stars shine brilliantly above. Cold winds sweep across the mountain. Far below, the world sleeps. There beneath the vast heavens, he hears it again. The hammering, faint at first, then unmistakable, metal upon metal, steady, rhythmic, coming from somewhere impossibly close and impossibly far. The sound seems to echo from within his own mind. The dream has followed him into waking life. For the first time, fear touches him fully. Not fear of prophecy, not fear of succession. A deeper fear, the fear of not understanding. The fear of carrying a mystery beyond his control. Above him, the stars remain silent. Below him, the sacred fires of Greece flicker in the darkness. And within him, hidden behind pain and omens and unanswered questions, something continues to grow. Something patient, something wise, something that fate has been preparing since the prophecy was first spoken beneath the ancient sky. Autumn settles gently across the world. You watch golden light spread over olive groves and vineyards. Cool winds sweep across the islands of the Aegean. In mountain villages, smoke rises from hearth fires as families prepare for the coming winter. Far below Olympus, life follows familiar rhythms. Yet above the clouds, the heart of the divine world grows uneasy. The pains within Zeus continue. What began as brief discomfort has become something impossible to ignore. The king of gods still performs his duties. He listens to disputes. He oversees sacrifices. He guides storms across distant seas. Yet each task requires greater effort than before. At times he pauses in the middle of conversation. At times his expression darkens unexpectedly. At times he grips the arm of his throne until the marble creaks beneath his hand. The Olympians notice. Of course they do. A palace is never truly silent. Whispers move through its corridors like wind through tall grass. Questions gather. Concerns multiply. No one knows exactly what is happening. And uncertainty often creates more fear than knowledge. You walk through the shining halls of Olympus. Torchlight flickers across polished floors. Golden statues cast long shadows against painted walls. Servants move quietly through the corridors, speaking in hushed voices. Even the atmosphere feels different. The palace seems to be waiting for something unseen, waiting for an answer. One evening, Hera stands beside a high balcony overlooking the world. The sun has nearly disappeared beyond the western sea. Purple clouds stretch across the horizon. The first stars begin to appear. She watches Zeus from a distance. His posture remains strong. His authority remains unquestioned. Yet something troubles him. That much is obvious. Ancient storytellers often portrayed Hera as perceptive beneath her pride and anger. She understands relationships. She understands hidden tensions. She understands silence. And the silence surrounding Zeus has become impossible to miss. When she asks him directly about his condition, he offers little explanation. A headache, fatigue, nothing important. The answer satisfies neither of them. Yet the conversation ends there. The mystery remains. Elsewhere upon Olympus, the gods develop their own theories. Some suspect a curse. Others suspect a punishment from older powers. A few wonder whether the Titans have somehow found a path toward revenge. The possibilities seem endless, and no explanation feels convincing. The Greeks loved such moments within their stories. Periods when signs accumulate, but meanings remain hidden. Periods when the audience knows more than the characters. You understand something the Olympians do not. Metis still lives. The prophecy still moves forward. Destiny continues its quiet work beneath every unanswered question. One night, the pain becomes severe enough that Zeus leaves the palace entirely. He climbs toward a remote peak above Olympus. The path winds between cliffs and ancient pines. Cold air fills the darkness. Stars blaze overhead with extraordinary brightness. The world below appears distant and unreal. At the summit stands an old shrine, simple, weathered, older than many structures upon Olympus itself. A sacred fire burns there. Its flames dance within a bronze basin, blackened by centuries of smoke. Zeus kneels beside the fire. For a long moment he says nothing. The wind sighs among the rocks. The flames crackle softly. Then another strange event occurs. The fire changes color. Gold becomes white. White becomes silver. For an instant the flames seem almost alive. A shape appears within them. A woman wearing a helmet. The image lasts only a heartbeat. Then it vanishes. The fire returns to normal. The vision leaves no explanation, only another mystery. Some researchers believe such symbolic moments reflect the gradual merging of Athena's identity into earlier traditions. Others suggest they preserve fragments of lost religious experiences. The truth remains uncertain, yet uncertainty itself has always been part of myth. The unknown invites imagination, and imagination allows stories to survive across centuries. When Zeus returns to Olympus, the signs continue. Owls appear repeatedly around the palace. One lands beside a fountain in broad daylight. Another perches upon the roof overlooking the throne room. A third watches silently from a laurel tree outside Zeus's chamber. The birds never remain long, yet their presence grows impossible to dismiss. The recurring omen has become almost deliberate, as though some unseen intelligence wishes to be noticed. Ancient Greeks associated unusual animal behavior with divine communication. Birds held particular importance. Their movements could reveal hidden truths. Their appearances could signal approaching change. Whether these owls truly carried meaning or gained significance later remains a matter of debate. But within the story, they feel purposeful. The future is watching. Meanwhile, the headaches intensify further. At times, Zeus hears the mysterious hammering even during daylight. The sound emerges suddenly, metal striking metal. Steady, measured, unrelenting. No one else hears it, only him. The rhythm seems familiar, though he cannot understand why. One afternoon, he sits upon his throne while clouds drift through the open terraces of the palace. A dispute unfolds among lesser spirits. Ordinarily, he would resolve it effortlessly. Today, the pain erupts without warning. Sharp, brilliant, overwhelming. The entire hall falls silent. Thunder explodes across the heavens. Lightning flashes beyond the palace walls. Several gods rise immediately from their seats. For a moment, it appears as though Olympus itself might tremble apart. Then the pain subsides. The storm fades. The silence that follows feels heavier than thunder. No one speaks. No one knows what to say. The mystery has become impossible to hide. That night, the Olympians gather privately. Different traditions disagree about who attended. Some mention Hera. Some include Poseidon. Others name Apollo or Hermes. The details vary. The concern remains constant. What is happening to Zeus? The discussion produces no answer, only more questions. And yet, amid all the uncertainty, one figure seems less troubled than the others. Hephaestus, the divine smith, master of fire and metal, lord of the forge. He spends much of his time away from palace politics. Deep beneath volcanic mountains, his workshops glow with molten bronze and sacred flames. Hammers ring against anvils. Sparks rise into darkness. Great works of craftsmanship emerge from his labor. For reasons he cannot fully explain, Hephaestus finds himself troubled by unusual dreams. In those dreams, he hears a voice calling from behind bronze doors, a voice asking to be released. The dreams leave him restless, curious. Perhaps fate has begun reaching toward him as well. The Greeks often structured myths this way. Long before a great event arrives, the necessary figures begin moving into position, like pieces upon a game board, like stars aligning in the night sky. As winter approaches, Olympus seems to hold its breath. The palace waits, the gods wait. Even the winds feel expectant. No one understands what is coming. No one sees the full shape of destiny. Yet everyone senses that a threshold approaches. And hidden behind pain, prophecy, and mystery, the child of Metis continues drawing nearer to the moment when wisdom itself will step into the light of the world. Winter arrives upon the highest peaks. Snow gathers along distant mountains. Frost clings to rocky ledges before sunrise. Cold winds sweep across the heavens, carrying the scent of pine forests and distant seas. The world below continues its seasonal rhythms. Farmers store grain for the colder months. Ships remain closer to protected harbors. Families gather around warm hearth fires. Yet upon Olympus, all attention remains fixed upon Zeus. The mystery has grown too large to ignore. His headaches now arrive with frightening force. The strange hammering echoes through his mind more often. The owls continue appearing. The omens continue gathering. And still no one understands what destiny intends. You move through the palace during these tense days. The great halls seem quieter than before. Conversations stop when Zeus enters a room. The musicians play more softly. Even the sacred fires appear subdued. The atmosphere resembles the hours before a storm. Not yet dangerous, yet charged with anticipation. Meanwhile, far from the palace, another figure moves steadily toward the center of the story. Hephaestus, the divine smith, the master craftsman of Olympus. The Greeks admired him greatly because he represented skill earned through effort. Unlike many gods, Hephaestus embodied labor, creation, patience, the transformation of raw material into something beautiful and useful. His workshops lie deep within fiery places. Some traditions imagine them beneath volcanoes. Others place them in hidden caverns where molten rivers flowed beneath the earth. Wherever they stood, they shared the same atmosphere. Heat, light, endless work. You descend now into one of these sacred forges. The air glows orange from enormous furnaces. Bronze shines like liquid sunlight. Molten metal flows through carved channels in the stone floor. Hammers ring against anvils. Sparks drift upward like golden stars. The scent of smoke and heated iron fills every corner. Hephaestus works alone. His powerful arms guide the hammer with practiced precision. Each strike produces a clear metallic note, the very sound Zeus has been hearing in his dreams. Though neither yet understands the connection, ancient audiences often appreciated such symbolic parallels. The hammering within Zeus and the hammering of the forge seem separate, yet destiny quietly links them together. One evening, after hours of labor, Hephaestus sets aside his tools. The forge grows quieter. Only the crackling of fire remains. Outside, darkness covers the world. The stars shine beyond the mouth of the cavern. Exhausted, he falls asleep beside the warmth of the furnace. That night a dream finds him. Dreams once again become the language of fate. In the vision, Hephaestus stands within a vast chamber made entirely of bronze. The walls shimmer with reflected firelight. At the center stands a sealed door, massive, ancient, covered with symbols too old to read. From beyond the door comes a familiar voice, not frightened, not desperate, calm, patient, wise. The voice speaks only a few words. When the gate opens, wisdom shall walk free. Then silence returns. The dream ends. Hephaestus awakens immediately. The fire beside him burns low. The forge feels colder than before. The words remain clear in his memory. Yet their meaning escapes him. Who spoke? What gate? What wisdom? The questions linger. Ancient Greek myths often move this way. Answers arrive slowly, piece by piece. Only after the final event do earlier signs reveal their purpose. The following days bring further omens. One morning, a flock of birds circles Olympus in a perfect spiral. Priests observe the phenomenon from temple courtyards. Some consider it beautiful. Others consider it significant. No agreement emerges. Elsewhere, a spring sacred to ancient nymphs suddenly produces unusually clear water. Visitors claim the surface reflects stars even during daylight. Stories spread quickly. The world seems filled with strange signs. Each points towards something, yet none explains what. At the center of it all stands Zeus. The pain continues worsening. At times, he struggles even to remain seated upon his throne. The pressure within his head grows unbearable. Thunder responds instinctively. Storms gather without warning. Lightning flashes across cloudless skies. The king of gods remains powerful, yet he no longer appears invincible. This realization unsettles Olympus more than any prophecy. One evening, while snow clouds drift around the highest peaks, Zeus summons several gods to his chamber. Torches burn along the walls. The room smells faintly of cedar smoke. Outside, winter winds move through the colonnades. The gathering includes Hera, Poseidon, Hermes, and eventually Hephaestus. The divine smith arrives directly from his forge. Traces of soot remain upon his hands. The scent of metal and fire follows him into the room. For a long moment, no one speaks. Then another wave of pain strikes Zeus, more powerful than any before. He rises abruptly. The chamber shakes. Thunder rolls across Olympus. Golden cups rattle upon nearby tables. Several torches extinguish themselves. The gods exchange alarmed glances. The mystery has become a crisis. When the pain finally subsides, silence follows. Heavy, uncomfortable. At last Zeus speaks. His voice sounds strained. He admits what everyone already suspects. Something is growing within him. Something connected to Metis. The confession changes everything. For the first time, the hidden truth enters the open. Not fully understood, yet acknowledged. The room remains silent. Hera lowers her gaze. Poseidon frowns thoughtfully. Hermes looks uncertain. And Hephaestus remembers his dream. The sealed door, the calm voice, the promise that wisdom would walk free. A strange feeling settles over him. Not understanding. Recognition, as though events long prepared have finally begun unfolding. Different ancient traditions describe what follows in different ways. Some say an oracle is consulted. Others say Gaia herself provides guidance. Another interpretation suggests the answer arrives through divine intuition. The details vary. The conclusion remains remarkably consistent. The thing growing within Zeus cannot remain there. A release must occur. A passage must be opened. And only one god possesses the necessary skill. The smith, the craftsman, the master of tools. Hephaestus. The realization fills him with unease. He does not yet know what he will be asked to do. But somewhere deep within his heart, he senses the approach of destiny. Outside the palace, night settles across the world. Snow begins falling softly upon distant peaks. Stars disappear behind drifting clouds. Sacred fires burn beside lonely shrines throughout Greece. And in the darkness beyond mortal sight, the threads of fate tighten. The door from Hephaestus's dream draws nearer. The hammer waits. The axe waits. The prophecy waits. And before many more nights pass, the heavens themselves will witness a birth unlike any other. A birth forged from wisdom. A birth born through pain. A birth that will change Olympus forever. Winter holds Olympus in its quiet grip. Snow rests upon distant peaks. Cold winds sweep across the highest ridges. The stars seem brighter in the clear night air, and the sacred fires burning throughout the palace cast warm circles of light against marble walls. You stand at the edge of a moment that ancient Greeks never forgot. Everything that has come before now gathers toward a single point. The prophecy, the dreams, the owls, the hammering, the pain, the hidden presence of Metis, all of it leads here. Zeus can no longer endure what grows within him. The pressure inside his head has become unbearable. Days pass in agony. Storms follow his suffering. When pain strikes, thunder rolls across the heavens. Clouds gather around Olympus without warning. Lightning flashes over distant seas. The natural world seems to respond to the condition of its king. The Greeks often imagined such connections. The cosmos was alive. The emotions of gods echoed through rivers, mountains, forests, and skies. Nothing existed entirely separate from divine influence. One evening, as darkness spreads across the world, another wave of pain arrives. This time it exceeds all that came before. You see Zeus stagger. His hands grip a marble column. The stone cracks beneath his strength. Thunder explodes above Olympus. Snow sweeps across the mountain. The palace trembles. Gods emerge from their chambers. Servants flee through corridors. Even the immortal residents of Olympus feel fear. The mystery has reached its climax. The king of gods falls to one knee. His face tightens with pain. The hammering within his mind no longer sounds distant. It is immediate, relentless, like a forge operating behind his thoughts. Strike after strike, blow after blow, something is being made. Something is almost ready. Hera rushes forward. Poseidon arrives moments later. Hermes appears beside them. Other gods gather throughout the hall. Golden lamps flicker. Shadows leap across the walls. Outside, the storm intensifies. Lightning illuminates the palace in brilliant flashes. The atmosphere feels suspended between terror and wonder. Ancient storytellers loved such moments. Moments when the ordinary structure of reality begins to bend. Moments when destiny finally reveals itself. Someone speaks the name of Hephaestus. The divine smith is summoned immediately. Messengers race through the palace. Far below, in the glowing depths of his forge, Hephaestus receives the call. He sets aside his tools. The furnaces continue burning behind him. The great anvils remain silent. Without hesitation, he begins climbing toward Olympus. The journey feels strangely familiar, as though he has walked this path before. Perhaps he has. In dreams, the memory of the bronze door remains vivid. The voice remains vivid. When the gate opens, wisdom shall walk free. Now, for the first time, he begins to understand. Not fully, but enough. By the time Hephaestus reaches the palace, the storm has become extraordinary. Clouds wrap around Olympus like dark oceans. Thunder shakes the heavens. Snow and lightning mingle in impossible patterns. The king of gods lies upon a great seat of stone. The gathered immortals surround him. No one speaks. The air itself seems to wait. Different ancient sources preserve different details here. Some say Hephaestus performed the act. Others name another figure. A few traditions offer alternative versions entirely. Historians continue debating these differences. Yet the most famous telling centers upon the divine smith, and so you remain beside him now. Hephaestus approaches Zeus. The pain visible before him leaves no room for doubt. Something must happen. The hidden door must open. The forge within the king must release what it has been creating. The smith carries a great axe. Its bronze edge gleams in the firelight. The tool appears both ordinary and sacred. An instrument of craftsmanship. An instrument of destiny. For a moment Hephaestus hesitates. The silence grows profound. Only thunder breaks it. Then Zeus gives his command. Open it. The words carry both authority and desperation. The decision is made. There is no turning back. The Greeks often recognized a moment beyond which fate cannot be reversed. This is such a moment. Hephaestus raises the axe. Lightning flashes across the hall. The bronze blade catches the light. Every god watches. Every breath seems suspended. Then the axe falls. The strike echoes across Olympus, across the heavens, across the imagination of generations. Who would tell this story for centuries? The skull of Zeus splits open, not with blood, not with death, but with light. Brilliant light, radiant beyond description. A golden brilliance erupts from the opening. Thunder explodes. The storm reaches its peak. The entire palace fills with dazzling illumination. Some traditions say the heavens themselves shook. Others claim the earth trembled. Perhaps both are true within the language of myth. What matters is the feeling. Creation, revelation, birth. The mystery hidden for so long finally emerges. From the opening steps, a figure, not an infant, not helpless, not dependent, fully formed, fully awake, fully divine. Athena. She appears clad in shining armor. A polished helmet crowns her head. A spear gleams in her hand. A shield rests upon her arm. Yet despite her martial appearance, her eyes hold remarkable calm. Wisdom rather than fury. Awareness rather than confusion. She enters existence already understanding herself. Already understanding the world. Already understanding her purpose. The image astonished ancient audiences. Most gods experience childhood, growth, development. Athena arrives complete, born directly from divine thought. Born from the union of power and wisdom. Born from Zeus and Metis together. For a long moment no one moves. The storm outside begins to fade. The thunder grows distant. Snow continues falling beyond the palace walls. Inside silence reigns. Athena stands before the assembled gods. Golden light surrounds her. Owls call somewhere in the darkness beyond Olympus. The recurring Omen finally finds its source. The signs have led here all along. The dreams have led here all along. The prophecies have led here all along. Athena lifts her gaze. The hall seems smaller around her. Not because she is physically immense. Because her presence feels immense. Ancient. Certain. The Greeks would come to associate her with wisdom, strategy, craftsmanship, law, and civilized order. Yet all those future meanings begin with this first moment, this first breath, this first appearance. Some researchers believe the story symbolizes the emergence of wisdom from conscious thought. Others view it as a merging of older goddess traditions with Olympian mythology. Both interpretations carry value. Yet standing here, within the myth itself, the experience feels simpler. Something extraordinary has happened. The impossible has become real. Zeus slowly rises. The agony has vanished. The pressure is gone. The mysterious hammering has ceased. The hidden work is complete. He looks upon Athena, his daughter, the child foretold by prophecy, the child who survived every attempt to prevent her arrival. For a moment neither speaks. The future stretches before them, unwritten, mysterious, full of possibilities. And somewhere deep within the silence, another question quietly remains. The prophecy promised a daughter. But it also spoke of a son. Has fate been fulfilled, or has it merely begun a new chapter? No one knows. Not yet. The mystery survives. Even as wisdom steps into the light, the storm passes slowly into memory. Clouds drift away from Olympus. Snow continues falling upon distant peaks, but the violence has faded. The heavens grow clear once more, revealing countless stars scattered across the night. You remain within this great hall. No one wishes to leave. No one can quite believe what they have witnessed. Athena stands before the gathered immortals. The golden light surrounding her softens gradually. though it never disappears completely. It clings to her like dawn lingering upon mountaintops. Her armor shines in the torchlight. The bronze of her helmet reflects the sacred fires burning throughout the chamber. Yet it is not her armor that commands attention. It is her gaze, calm, steady, awake. Unlike any newborn ever imagined, the Greeks often portrayed gods as powerful from the moment of their arrival. Yet Athena exceeds even that tradition. She enters existence already possessing the qualities she will forever represent: wisdom, judgment, clarity, measured strength. She looks upon Olympus not with confusion, but with understanding, as though she has been listening from within Zeus for far longer than anyone realized. For a long moment, silence fills the hall. The immortals study her, and she studies them. Ancient storytellers sometimes imagined that every god present felt something different during that first meeting. Hera saw a daughter born outside ordinary motherhood. Poseidon saw a future rival in matters of influence. Hermes saw intelligence equal to his own cleverness. Apollo perhaps recognized another guardian of civilization and order. Each god viewed Athena through the lens of personal hopes and fears. Such reactions feel natural. A new power has entered the world, and no one yet knows what shape that power will take. The uncertainty itself creates tension. Even after the miracle of her birth mystery remains. Athena slowly steps forward. The sound of her sandals against marble echoes through the chamber. Soft, measured, deliberate, she stops before Zeus. Father and daughter regard one another. Between them stands the entire journey that brought them here. The prophecy, the swallowing of Metis, the years of hidden growth, the terrible pain, the opening of the divine gate. None of it is spoken aloud. Yet all of it remains present. The Greeks understood that some histories become part of a relationship forever. They need not be discussed. They simply exist. Zeus studies her carefully. Perhaps he searches for signs of danger. Perhaps he searches for signs of destiny. Perhaps he simply searches for understanding. After all, Athena represents something entirely new. A daughter born from fear, yet also born from wisdom. A child created through an attempt to control fate, yet also through fate's triumph. The contradictions make her fascinating, and those contradictions will remain part of her identity. Then Athena speaks. Different traditions preserve different first words. Some omit them entirely. Others offer brief declarations. In many versions, what matters is not the exact phrase, but the effect. Her voice carries confidence, not arrogance, not pride. Certainty, the certainty of someone who knows who she is. You can almost imagine the sound. Clear as spring water, strong as bronze, gentle enough to calm a room. The atmosphere changes immediately. The tension lessens. The fear that gripped Olympus begins to fade. The gathered gods realize something important. Athena is powerful, extraordinarily powerful. Yet she is not hostile. She does not arrive seeking conquest. She does not challenge Zeus. She does not demand a throne. Instead, she brings balance. This realization matters deeply. For months, perhaps years, prophecy has haunted Olympus. The possibility of overthrow. The possibility of succession. The possibility of another cycle repeating itself. Yet Athena's presence feels different. She does not resemble the imagined son of prophecy. She resembles wisdom itself. And wisdom rarely rushes toward destruction. Outside the palace, the stars shine brightly above the world. Far below, winter waves strike harbor walls. Sacred fires burn beside lonely shrines. Mortals sleep unaware that mythology has changed forever. The Greeks who later told this story often saw Athena's birth as more than a remarkable event. They saw it as a statement about civilization. Raw power alone cannot sustain order. Wisdom must stand beside it. Strength requires guidance. Authority requires judgment. Athena becomes the embodiment of that idea. A living principle, as much as a goddess. As the night continues, celebrations begin cautiously. Music returns to the palace. Wine flows once more. Torches brighten the corridors. Relief spreads throughout Olympus. The crisis appears resolved, yet not everyone feels entirely at ease. A few gods continue watching Athena carefully. A new divine force always changes existing relationships. Influence shifts. Alliances evolve. Questions remain. The mystery has transformed rather than disappeared. One figure in particular remains thoughtful. Hephaestus. The divine smith stands quietly near one of the great columns. The axe rests nearby, its task completed. He studies Athena with curiosity. His dream returns to memory. The sealed bronze door. The hidden voice. The promise. When the gate opens, wisdom shall walk free. Now he understands. The dream was never about destruction. It was about release. about allowing something necessary to enter the world. A strange satisfaction settles over him. The craftsman helped complete a work greater than any weapon or palace he could forge, a work shaped by destiny itself. Meanwhile, Zeus finds himself reflecting upon Metis. The memory arrives unexpectedly. A conversation beside a spring, a walk beneath the stars, advice offered quietly, wisdom shared freely. Though unseen, Metis remains present within this moment. Athena carries her legacy, perhaps even her voice. Some ancient interpretations suggest exactly that. Metis survives through her daughter, not physically, but symbolically. Wisdom continues. The Greeks often valued such continuity. Nothing truly important disappears. It changes form. It finds new expression. As the feast unfolds, another omen appears. An owl enters the hall. No one notices at first. The bird glides silently through the open terrace. Moonlight touches its wings. It circles once above the gathering, then settles upon a beam high overhead. There it remains, watching, quiet, patient. The sight draws attention immediately. Several gods glance upward. The room grows still once more. The recurring sign has returned. Now its meaning seems unmistakable. Athena notices the bird. A faint smile touches her face. The owl blinks slowly. The moment feels almost ceremonial, as though the world itself acknowledges her arrival. Yet even now uncertainty survives. The prophecy spoke of more than a daughter. The old warning has not been entirely explained. Historians continue debating how ancient audiences interpreted that unresolved thread. Did they view it as fulfilled, avoided, transformed? No single answer exists, and perhaps that uncertainty is intentional. The Greeks rarely eliminated mystery completely. A little mystery keeps the story alive. As midnight approaches, the celebration gradually quiets. Athena steps onto a terrace overlooking the sleeping world. Cold air moves around her. Stars stretch endlessly overhead. The sea glimmers far below. For the first time, she stands alone, newly born, yet somehow ancient. The future lies before her. Heroes she has not yet guided. Cities she has not yet protected. Temples she has not yet inspired. The paths remain unseen. Only one thing feels certain. Wisdom has entered the world, and Olympus will never be the same again. The night grows quieter after the celebrations. Music fades into distant corridors. The laughter of the gods softens and disappears. One by one, lamps are extinguished throughout the palace, leaving only a few sacred fires burning beneath the stars. Winter moonlight settles across Olympus. Silver light spills over marble terraces and snowy peaks. The air feels crisp and still. Far below, waves strike dark coastlines with their endless rhythm. You walk through the sleeping palace. Most of the gods have withdrawn to their chambers. Athena remains awake. Zeus remains thoughtful. And Hera remains silent. Her silence carries weight. Not anger alone, not sorrow alone, something more complicated. Ancient Greek mythology often presents Hera through conflict and jealousy. Yet beneath those stories lies a figure of immense dignity. She is queen of heaven, guardian of marriage, keeper of sacred bonds. Athena's birth has placed her in an unusual position. She witnessed the arrival of a daughter, a remarkable daughter. Yet she played no role in bringing that child into existence. For a goddess whose authority is deeply connected to family and lineage, the event feels both wondrous and unsettling. You find Hera standing upon a balcony overlooking the eastern horizon. The stars reflect in her dark eyes. A cold wind moves through her hair. She watches the world below without speaking. The sight feels lonely. The Greeks understood that even divine beings experience isolation. Power often creates distance. Queens and kings frequently stand apart from those around them. Their burdens remain invisible. Hera's thoughts drift across the events of the evening. She cannot deny Athena's brilliance. The goddess radiates intelligence and purpose. Her presence feels necessary, important, almost inevitable. Yet admiration does not erase discomfort. The manner of Athena's birth challenges familiar patterns. A daughter emerged without a mother's embrace, without labor, without nurturing hands, without the ordinary passage from one generation to the next. For mortals listening to this story centuries ago, the symbolism would have been striking. Athena represents a uniquely masculine vision of creation, born from thought, born from intellect, born from the head of Zeus, and yet hidden within that process remains Metis, the forgotten mother, the unseen source. The Greeks never completely erased her. Wisdom entered Athena through both parents, even if one remained invisible. As moonlight spreads across the palace, Hera remembers earlier prophecies. The old warning, the fear that haunted Zeus, the years of secrecy, the strange pains, the gathering omens. She begins to see how deeply fear shaped every decision, and perhaps she understands something Zeus himself is only beginning to realize. Fear rarely produces the future we expect. The king swallowed Metis to prevent destiny. Instead, destiny found a more extraordinary path. One evening becomes another. The palace sleeps. Then Hera dreams. Dreams continue moving through this story, like hidden rivers beneath the earth. Ancient Greeks paid close attention to dreams because they occupied a threshold between worlds. The sleeping mind could wander where waking reason could not. In Hera's dream, she stands within a vast garden. The place feels ancient, older than Olympus, older than the Titans. Olive trees grow beside flowing streams. Flowers bloom in impossible colors. The air smells of spring despite the winter season. As she walks through the garden, she notices a tree unlike the others. Its trunk shines with silver light. Its branches carry both blossoms and fruit, new beginnings and maturity existing together. Beneath the tree stands a young woman, helmeted, radiant. Athena, the goddess, says nothing. Instead, she places an olive branch into Hera's hands. Then she disappears. The garden fades. The dream ends. Hera awakens before dawn. The vision lingers. Its meaning remains uncertain. Was it a promise? A warning? A gesture of peace? Ancient traditions often left such questions unanswered. Mystery gives dreams their enduring power. Outside, the first hints of sunrise begin coloring the horizon. Soft pink light spreads across distant clouds. The world feels calm. Yet subtle changes continue unfolding within Olympus. Athena herself spends these early days observing, listening, learning. Though fully grown, she does not rush into action. This restraint becomes one of her defining qualities. Wisdom does not require haste. You follow her through the palace gardens as morning sunlight glitters upon frost-covered leaves. She studies the world with quiet fascination. Bird song, flowing water, the movement of clouds, the conversations of gods. Nothing escapes her attention. Several immortals approach her during these days. Hermes engages her in clever discussions. Apollo speaks of music, prophecy, and harmony. Demeter shares reflections on cycles of growth and renewal. Each encounter reveals another aspect of Athena's character. She listens more than she speaks. Yet when she finally offers an observation, others find themselves considering it long afterward. The quality reminds many of Metis, another subtle callback to the hidden mother, whose presence still echoes throughout the story. Some researchers suggest that ancient audiences may have viewed Athena as the continuation of Metis rather than her replacement. The idea remains debated, yet it captures something meaningful. Wisdom survives. It changes shape. It finds new voices. Meanwhile, Zeus begins adjusting to a world transformed by Athena's arrival. His headaches have vanished completely. The hammering is gone. The terrible pressure that haunted him has become memory. Relief fills him, but relief does not erase reflection. The events leading to Athena's birth continue troubling him. The prophecy forced him into choices he might never have made otherwise, and now he must live with those choices. One afternoon, he walks alone through a sacred grove. Snow melts beneath the growing strength of the sun. Water drips from branches. The scent of damp earth fills the air. There he encounters another owl. The bird settles upon a low branch nearby, watching him, silent. Its presence no longer feels threatening. Instead, it feels familiar, comforting even. The symbol has changed, just as the prophecy has changed. What once inspired fear now inspires understanding. The Greeks often built myths around such transformations. Wisdom emerges when fear gives way to perspective. Yet not every question has been answered. The prophecy's deeper meaning remains uncertain. The future remains uncertain. Athena's role within Olympus remains only partially revealed. The story continues moving forward. As evening returns and golden light washes across the mountain, Hera and Athena finally meet alone. No audience watches. No grand ceremony occurs. Only two goddesses standing beside a terrace overlooking the sea. The conversation is quiet, respectful, measured. No surviving source records their exact words. Perhaps none ever did, and perhaps that is fitting. Some moments matter not because of what is said, but because of what becomes possible afterward. The silence between them begins to soften, like winter yielding slowly to spring, like old fears yielding slowly to wisdom. And far above the darkening world, the first evening stars begin appearing once more. Spring begins to soften the world below Olympus. Snow withdraws from the lower slopes. Streams run bright through green valleys. Wildflowers open along country paths, and farmers step into their fields beneath the warming sun. You feel the season changing, not only in the world of mortals, in Olympus too. The first shock of Athena's birth has passed. The gods no longer gather in tense silence whenever she enters a hall. Servants no longer pause with open wonder. Even the sacred fires seem to burn more steadily now, as though the palace has accepted her presence. Yet acceptance is not the same as understanding. Athena remains a mystery. She is daughter of Zeus, child of Metis, born from the head of the Thunderer, fully grown, fully armed, already wise. No ordinary pattern can explain her. And so the gods begin doing what mortals also do when faced with mystery. They search for meaning. You walk with Athena through the marble corridors of Olympus. Morning light enters through tall openings, falling in pale gold bands across polished stone. The air smells faintly of incense, olive oil, and laurel leaves brought from sacred groves below. She moves calmly, never hurried, never uncertain. Her armor makes a soft sound as she walks. Bronze against woven cloth, leather against metal. The rhythm feels measured, almost like thought taking form. Ancient Greeks would later call her bright-eyed Athena, gray-eyed Athena, the goddess who sees clearly. This clarity begins here. In her first days among the Olympians, she observes the structure of divine life. She watches Zeus judge disputes. She listens to Apollo speak of harmony. She notices Hera's dignity, Poseidon's force, Hermes' quickness, Demeter's patience. Each god carries power. Each power has limits. Athena understands this almost immediately. Power without wisdom becomes excess. Wisdom without power becomes helpless. The balance between them will define her. One afternoon, Zeus invites her to stand beside him during a council. Clouds drift beyond the open hall. Below, the world glimmers beneath spring sunlight. Petitions come before the gods. A river spirit disputes a boundary with a mountain nymph. A coastal town asks for calm seas. A king below has broken an oath and seeks forgiveness through sacrifice. Zeus listens. Then he turns slightly toward Athena. He does not command her. He simply waits. The gesture surprises the gathered gods. The king of heaven is asking for counsel. Athena steps forward. Her voice remains gentle but clear. She does not speak quickly. She separates anger from justice, fear from truth, need from greed. The hall grows quiet as she explains that strength must protect order, not pride. Punishment may be necessary, but it should restore balance where balance has been broken. Zeus listens. So does Hera. So does Poseidon, though his expression remains difficult to read. The judgment that follows bears Athena's influence. No thunderbolt falls. No divine rage descends. Instead, each matter receives measured resolution. This is the first time Olympus sees her wisdom at work. A sign follows soon after. As the council ends, sunlight strikes Athena's spear. The reflected light travels across the hall and touches the old stone once swallowed by Kronos. For a moment, everyone notices. The symbol is quiet but powerful. The cycle of swallowing has not vanished. It has been transformed. Kronos swallowed through fear. Zeus swallowed through fear. But now wisdom stands in the open. Ancient audiences would have felt the meaning. What is hidden by fear must eventually be brought into light. Yet another question remains. Did Zeus create Athena by overcoming fear, or did fate force wisdom into the world despite him? No one can answer completely. Historians continue to debate the deeper layers of this myth. Some see Athena's birth as a political symbol placing wisdom inside the authority of Zeus. Others believe it preserves traces of older goddess worship folded into the Olympian order. Within the story, both meanings breathe together. Athena belongs to Zeus, but not only to Zeus. She carries Metis. She carries prophecy. She carries the memory of pain. That evening, Athena walks alone beyond the palace. The sky darkens slowly. A cool wind moves through cypress trees. The scent of damp earth rises after a brief spring rain. She reaches the sacred spring where Metis once looked into the water. Moonlight trembles upon the surface. For the first time, Athena kneels beside it. She sees her reflection. Helmet, eyes, armor, stillness. Then the water shifts. For a heartbeat, another face appears behind her own. A woman's face, calm and knowing. Metis. The image vanishes almost instantly. Athena does not cry out. She simply watches the ripples fade. Was it memory? Was it vision? Was it the hidden mother speaking through sacred water? Ancient tradition gives no final answer. But Athena rises changed, not shaken, deepened. She understands that wisdom is inheritance, not possession. It passes through silence, suffering, counsel, and memory. It survives even when unseen. As night gathers over Olympus, an owl settles beside the spring. Its feathers are soft in the moonlight. Its eyes reflect the stars. Athena turns toward it, and the bird does not flee. The omen has become companionship. The warning has become recognition. The mysterious sign that once unsettled Zeus now rests beside his daughter. Far below, mortals continue their lives without knowing what has occurred. Women weave by lamplight. Men repair nets in harbors. Children sleep beside hearth fires. Priests tend altars where smoke rises into darkness. One day these mortals will tell stories of Athena. They will build temples in her honor. They will ask for guidance before warcraft judgment and civic life. But for now, she stands quietly beneath the stars. A goddess newly born yet ancient in meaning. Daughter of the head, child of hidden wisdom. And in the stillness you sense the next path opening before her. Wisdom must not remain only in Olympus. It must descend toward the human world. Spring begins to soften the world below Olympus. Snow withdraws from the lower slopes. Streams run bright through green valleys. Wildflowers open along country paths, and farmers step into their fields beneath the warming sun. You feel the season changing, not only in the world of mortals. In Olympus, too, the first shock of Athena's birth has passed. The gods no longer gather in tense silence whenever she enters a hall. Servants no longer pause with open wonder. Even the sacred fires seem to burn more steadily now, as though the palace has accepted her presence. Yet acceptance is not the same as understanding. Athena remains a mystery. She is daughter of Zeus, child of Metis, born from the head of the Thunderer, fully grown, fully armed, already wise. No ordinary pattern can explain her. And so the gods begin doing what mortals also do when faced with mystery. They search for meaning. You walk with Athena through the marble corridors of Olympus. Morning light enters through tall openings, falling in pale gold bands across polished stone. The air smells faintly of incense olive oil and laurel leaves brought from sacred groves below. She moves calmly, never hurried, never uncertain. Her armor makes a soft sound as she walks. Bronze against woven cloth, leather against metal. The rhythm feels measured, almost like thought taking form. Ancient Greeks would later call her bright-eyed Athena, gray-eyed Athena, the goddess who sees clearly. This clarity begins here. In her first days among the Olympians, she observes the structure of divine life. She watches Zeus judge disputes. She listens to Apollo speak of harmony. She notices Hera's dignity, Poseidon's force, Hermes' quickness, Demeter's patience. Each god carries power. Each power has limits. Athena understands this almost immediately. Power without wisdom becomes excess. Wisdom without power becomes helpless. The balance between them will define her. One afternoon, Zeus invites her to stand beside him during a council. Clouds drift beyond the open hall. Below, the world glimmers beneath spring sunlight. Petitions come before the gods. A river spirit disputes a boundary with a mountain nymph. A coastal town asks for calm seas. A king below has broken an oath and seeks forgiveness through sacrifice. Zeus listens. Then he turns slightly toward Athena. He does not command her. He simply waits. The gesture surprises the gathered gods. The king of heaven is asking for counsel. Athena steps forward. Her voice remains gentle but clear. She does not speak quickly. She separates anger from justice, fear from truth, need from greed. The hall grows quiet as she explains that strength must protect order, not pride. Punishment may be necessary, but it should restore balance where balance has been broken. Zeus listens. So does Hera. So does Poseidon, though his expression remains difficult to read. The judgment that follows bears Athena's influence. No thunderbolt falls. No divine rage descends. Instead, each matter receives measured resolution. This is the first time Olympus sees her wisdom at work. A sign follows soon after. As the council ends, sunlight strikes Athena's spear. The reflected light travels across the hall and touches the old stone once swallowed by Kronos. For a moment, everyone notices. The symbol is quiet but powerful. The cycle of swallowing has not vanished. It has been transformed. Kronos swallowed through fear. Zeus swallowed through fear. But now wisdom stands in the open. Ancient audiences would have felt the meaning. What is hidden by fear must eventually be brought into light. Yet another question remains. Did Zeus create Athena by overcoming fear? Or did fate force wisdom into the world despite him? No one can answer completely. Historians continue to debate the deeper layers of this myth. Some see Athena's birth as a political symbol placing wisdom inside the authority of Zeus. Others believe it preserves traces of older goddess worship folded into the Olympian order. Within the story, both meanings breathe together. Athena belongs to Zeus, but not only to Zeus. She carries Metis, she carries prophecy, she carries the memory of pain. That evening, Athena walks alone beyond the palace. The sky darkens slowly. A cool wind moves through cypress trees. The scent of damp earth rises after a brief spring rain. She reaches the sacred spring where Metis once looked into the water. Moonlight trembles upon the surface. For the first time, Athena kneels beside it. She sees her reflection. Helmet, eyes, armor, stillness. Then the water shifts. For a heartbeat, another face appears behind her own. A woman's face, calm and knowing. Metis. The image vanishes almost instantly. Athena does not cry out. She simply watches the ripples fade. Was it memory? Was it vision? Was it the hidden mother speaking through sacred water? Ancient tradition gives no final answer. But Athena rises changed, not shaken, deepened. She understands that wisdom is inheritance, not possession. It passes through silence, suffering, counsel, and memory. It survives even when unseen. As night gathers over Olympus, an owl settles beside the spring. Its feathers are soft in the moonlight. Its eyes reflect the stars. Athena turns toward it, and the bird does not flee. The omen has become companionship. The warning has become recognition. The mysterious sign that once unsettled Zeus now rests beside his daughter. Far below, mortals continue their lives without knowing what has occurred. Women weave by lamplight. Men repair nets in harbors. Children sleep beside hearth fires. Priests tend altars where smoke rises into darkness. One day, these mortals will tell stories of Athena. They will build temples in her honor. They will ask for guidance before warcraft, judgment, and civic life. But for now, she stands quietly beneath the stars. A goddess newly born, yet ancient in meaning. Daughter of the head, child of hidden wisdom. And in the stillness, you sense the next path opening before her. Wisdom must not remain only in Olympus. It must descend toward the human world. Spring deepens across Greece. The countryside brightens with color. Almond blossoms drift upon the wind. Streams sparkle beneath clear skies. In small villages, farmers work fertile fields, while shepherds guide their flocks across green hillsides. Below Olympus, life flourishes. Above Olympus, Athena begins discovering the full shape of her identity. You follow her through the days after the vision at the sacred spring. The memory of Metis remains with her, not as a voice, not as a command, more like a quiet awareness, a sense that wisdom comes from listening as much as speaking. The feeling accompanies her wherever she goes, through palace halls, across marble terraces, into sacred groves where owls watch from shadowed branches. Athena does not rush to claim power. This alone distinguishes her from many figures in myth. Ancient heroes often seek glory. Kings seek authority. Warriors seek victory. Athena seeks understanding. The difference matters. One morning, she climbs beyond the highest gardens of Olympus. Mist drifts across the mountainside. The air feels cool and fresh. Wildflowers grow between ancient stones. Far below, the sea stretches toward distant horizons, where sunlight dances upon the waves. Athena carries her spear, not because she expects battle, because the spear has become part of her nature. The Greeks would later associate her with warfare, yet not the wild violence embodied by Ares. Athena represents strategy, preparation, discipline, the thoughtful use of strength. This distinction reveals much about Greek values. Victory gained through wisdom earned greater admiration than victory achieved through rage. As she reaches a ridge overlooking the world, Athena pauses. The wind moves through her hair beneath the bronze helmet. Cloud shadows drift across forests and valleys below. The scene feels vast, endless. Then another omen appears, a dream while awake, or perhaps a vision. The boundary between the two remains uncertain. The world around her seems to grow quieter. The wind fades. The sounds of birds disappear. Before her stretches a plain she has never seen. Upon it stand countless warriors. Their armor gleams beneath the sun. Their shields form shining walls. Their spears resemble forests of bronze. The army waits, silent, motionless. Then the vision changes. The warriors charge. Chaos erupts. Dust fills the air. Steel clashes against steel. Cries echo across the battlefield. At first, the conflict appears meaningless, violence consuming itself. Then Athena notices something. A single commander stands upon a hill. The leader does not rush forward, does not shout, does not panic. Instead, the commander watches, thinks, calculates. A small movement of the hand changes the entire battle. One decision prevents thousands of deaths. One insight transforms disaster into victory. The vision fades. The mountainside returns. The wind returns. The birds return. Athena remains standing in silence. The meaning feels clear. Strength alone wins battles. Wisdom determines whether battles should be fought at all. Ancient Greeks often viewed Athena through this lens. She was not merely a goddess of war. She was a goddess of intelligent action. The difference shaped her worship for centuries. Later that day, she visits the training grounds where younger divine spirits practice martial skills. The field lies near a cliff overlooking the sea. Warm sunlight glows upon polished armor. The scent of salt drifts upward from the waves below. Several warriors compete with impressive determination, yet many rely solely upon force. Athena watches quietly. Then she offers a suggestion, a small adjustment, a different position, a different approach. The result surprises everyone. A weaker fighter suddenly defeats a stronger opponent, not through power, through understanding. The lesson spreads quickly. Athena's reputation grows, not because she demands recognition, because her wisdom consistently proves valuable. Even the proudest gods begin seeking her perspective. Among them is Zeus himself. Their relationship deepens in unexpected ways. Father and daughter spend long hours discussing justice, leadership, and responsibility. Zeus notices something remarkable. Athena never flatters him. She never tells him what he wishes to hear. Instead, she tells him what he needs to consider. The quality reminds him painfully of Metis. A subtle callback returns. The hidden mother remains present through her daughter's character. One evening, as sunset paints the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Zeus asks a question that has troubled him since Athena's birth. "Do you resent me?" The words emerge quietly, almost reluctantly. Athena studies the horizon before answering. Below them, the sea glimmers beneath fading sunlight. Fishing boats return toward distant harbors. Smoke rises from evening hearths across the countryside. The world feels peaceful. At length she speaks. Wisdom, she says, cannot grow from resentment, only understanding. The answer offers neither accusation nor forgiveness. Something deeper, perspective. Zeus remains silent for a long time afterward. Perhaps he understands. Perhaps he merely hopes to. The Greeks rarely portrayed wisdom as simple. True understanding often contains complexity. Contradictions can exist side by side. Love beside disappointment. Respect beside regret. Strength beside vulnerability. Athena embodies these balances naturally. As weeks pass, stories about her begin reaching the mortal world. Travelers speak of a new goddess. Priests report unusual dreams. Sailors describe owls appearing above their ships during difficult journeys. The signs spread slowly through Greece. Different regions interpret them differently. Some welcome them, others remain cautious. No one yet knows the full nature of the bright-eyed goddess. That uncertainty becomes part of her growing legend. One night during a festival held upon Olympus, another dream arrives. This time it comes to Athena herself. She finds herself walking through a city unlike any she has seen. Marble buildings rise beneath a brilliant sky. Temples gleam in sunlight. Marketplaces bustle with life. Children laugh beside fountains. Artists carve stone. Scholars debate beneath shaded colonnades. The city feels vibrant, civilized, alive. Then a voice speaks from above, not commanding, not threatening, simply certain. One day they will choose. The dream ends immediately. Athena awakens beneath a sky crowded with stars. An owl sits nearby upon a column, watching, waiting. The message remains mysterious. Choose what? Choose whom? The answer does not come. Not yet. But ancient listeners would recognize the importance of such visions. Prophecy often reveals destinations long before revealing the road. Athena senses that her future extends beyond Olympus, beyond divine councils, beyond the halls of the gods. Somewhere below, among mortals, a city awaits. A city not yet connected to her. A city whose destiny will eventually become inseparable from her own. For now, however, the future remains hidden. The stars shine overhead. The sea whispers against distant shores. The sacred fires burn gently through the night. And Athena, armored maiden of wisdom and strategy, continues her journey toward the role fate has prepared since before her birth. Summer returns to the world. Warm winds sweep across the islands of Greece. Wheat ripens in golden fields. Merchant vessels cross the bright waters of the Aegean, their sails glowing white beneath the sun. Life moves forward. Seasons change. Years begin to unfold around Athena's arrival. Yet some things remain unresolved. Some questions linger beneath the surface, like ancient roots beneath fertile soil. You follow Zeus during one such season of reflection. The king of gods has regained his strength completely. The terrible headaches have vanished. The storms no longer answer hidden pain. The hammering within his mind has fallen silent. To those around him, the crisis appears finished. Yet Zeus knows otherwise. Athena stands before him every day. A living reminder, a living answer, and perhaps a living question. For while his daughter clearly embodies wisdom, he cannot escape another truth. Metis never truly disappeared. The thought returns often, especially during quiet moments. One evening, Zeus walks alone through a sacred grove beyond Olympus. The sun has nearly set. Golden light filters through ancient olive trees. The scent of warm earth rises from the ground. Cicadas sing among the branches. The grove feels peaceful, almost untouched by time. Here, away from councils and ceremonies, memory finds him. He remembers the first conversations with Metis, the advice she offered after the Titan War, the calm certainty in her voice, the way she saw patterns others missed. At the time, he admired those qualities. Later, he feared them. Now he misses them. The realization surprises him. Ancient Greek myths often reveal that wisdom arrives through regret. Only after a decision has been made do its full consequences become visible. Zeus cannot change the past. He cannot undo the swallowing of Metis. He cannot return to the moment beside the spring. He can only understand it more clearly. The evening grows darker. Stars begin appearing above the grove. A gentle wind stirs the leaves. Then something unusual happens. The air becomes strangely still, not frightening, not threatening, simply different. For an instant, Zeus hears a familiar voice, soft, calm, almost indistinguishable from thought itself. Listen before judging. The words last only a moment, then silence returns. The grove remains unchanged. No figure appears. No vision follows. Yet Zeus knows what he heard, or thinks he knows. Was it truly Metis? Was it memory? Was it wisdom taking the shape of memory? The Greeks often blurred such boundaries. Mythology rarely separates psychological truth from supernatural experience. Both can exist together. Both can be meaningful. The uncertainty remains, and perhaps that uncertainty is part of the lesson. Later that night, Zeus watches Athena speaking with several younger divine spirits. The conversation takes place beside a fountain illuminated by torchlight. Water glimmers beneath the stars. The scent of laurel and rosemary drifts through the warm air. Athena listens patiently as the spirits argue over a dispute. She allows each voice to speak. She interrupts no one. Only after hearing every perspective does she offer an answer. The disagreement ends almost immediately, not because she imposes authority, because she reveals understanding. Zeus recognizes the pattern instantly. Metis once did the same. The observation fills him with both comfort and melancholy. Athena is her own being, yet traces of her mother remain visible. Wisdom survives. The idea echoes through the myth again and again. Ancient audiences often found deep reassurance in such themes. What is truly valuable does not vanish. It changes form. It continues through memory influence and inheritance. The following week brings another omen, a small one, the kind easily overlooked. Yet mythology teaches you to pay attention. During a sacrifice held at dawn, the smoke rises straight into the sky despite strong winds. Priests notice immediately. Several birds circle above the altar. Among them flies an owl. The familiar sign returns once more. The bird circles 3 times before disappearing toward the east. Toward the mortal world, the direction feels significant. Though no one can fully explain why, historians continue debating the exact origins of Athena's owl symbolism. Some suggest practical reasons. Owls hunt at night. They see what others cannot. Others point toward older religious traditions. The truth remains elusive. Yet within the story, the meaning feels intuitive. Wisdom perceives hidden things. Wisdom sees through darkness. As summer deepens, Athena herself begins pondering questions about her origins. She has never expressed resentment, never shown bitterness. Yet curiosity remains natural. One afternoon, she returns to the sacred spring, where she once glimpsed the face of Metis. Sunlight dances across the water. Dragonflies hover above reeds. The air smells of wildflowers warmed by the sun. Athena kneels beside the spring. The water reflects clouds drifting overhead. For a long moment, she says nothing. Then she asks a simple question, not aloud, within herself. Who was she? The question hangs in silence. The spring offers no immediate answer, only ripples, only reflected sky. Then a leaf falls from an olive tree above. It lands gently upon the water. The ripples spread outward. Within them, Athena briefly sees another image, not a face this time. A loom, threads being woven, golden threads, silver threads, dark threads, all joining together. The vision fades. Yet the symbolism remains. Metis was not merely an individual. She was wisdom woven into destiny, a thread within a greater design. Athena rises slowly. The mystery has not been solved, but something has been understood. Identity is not a single thread. It is a tapestry, part father, part mother, part choice, part fate. Ancient Greeks often viewed life through such interconnected patterns. No person stood alone. Each belonged to histories reaching backward through generations. Athena carries Zeus. Athena carries Metis. Athena also carries herself. The future will emerge from all three. That evening, she shares a quiet conversation with Zeus. They sit upon a terrace overlooking the sea. The sunset glows red and gold across distant waters. Ships appear as tiny silhouettes on the horizon. The world feels peaceful. Athena speaks of wisdom. Zeus speaks of leadership. Neither mentions Metis directly, yet her presence lingers between them, unspoken, understood. A subtle callback to everything that brought them here. The king who feared prophecy, the goddess who embodied wisdom, the daughter born from both. As darkness settles over the world, the stars emerge once more. The sea whispers below. The sacred fires burn steadily. And somewhere beyond Olympus, among the cities and villages of mortal Greece, destiny begins preparing the next chapter. For wisdom cannot remain hidden among the gods forever. Soon it will descend toward human lives, toward craftsmen, toward sailors, toward rulers, toward a city whose fate is already moving quietly toward Athena. Though neither the city nor the goddess yet knows it, autumn returns slowly to the world of Greece. The air grows cooler. Vine leaves shift into shades of red and gold. Olive branches sway beneath softer sunlight. Along coastal harbors, ships move more cautiously as winds begin to change. In Olympus, the atmosphere also shifts. Athena is no longer new, yet she is not fully understood. And so, like all forces that change a system, she is tested, not openly, not formally, but through moments, through conversations, through subtle challenges disguised as ordinary divine life. You walk beside Athena through these days of quiet examination. She notices it immediately. The gods are watching her more carefully now, not with hostility, but with curiosity, perhaps even uncertainty. Hermes is the first to engage her in extended dialogue. He approaches her one morning in a sunlit courtyard where fountains reflect moving clouds. His tone is light, almost playful. He speaks of intelligence, of cleverness, of strategy. He tests her with riddles disguised as questions. Athena answers each one without hesitation, not quickly, but precisely, as though every answer already exists within her before it is spoken. Hermes smiles, but something in his expression shifts. Recognition. She is not merely intelligent. She is structured intelligence, a different category entirely. Later that day, Apollo joins her beneath a colonnade. The god of light and prophecy observes her carefully. He speaks of harmony, of music, of order within chaos. He suggests that wisdom must also include beauty. Athena listens without interruption. When she finally responds, she does not disagree. Instead, she extends his idea. Order and beauty, she says, are not separate. They are expressions of the same underlying principle. Apollo pauses. For the first time, he does not immediately answer. Instead, he considers her words in silence. The wind moves gently through the columns. Birds circle above distant trees. The moment feels significant. Demeter encounters her next. In the fertile gardens of Olympus, where sacred plants grow in eternal abundance, the goddess of harvest speaks gently to Athena about cycles, growth, decay, renewal. She wonders whether wisdom can understand patience. Athena kneels beside a sprouting plant. She observes it carefully. Then she replies that understanding patience is not enough. One must also know when to act. Demeter nods slowly. No further argument follows. Each encounter reveals another dimension of Athena. Not through conflict, but through refinement, as though the gods are collectively shaping their understanding of her through observation. Yet beneath this calm exchange lies something deeper, a subtle tension, a question none of them fully articulate. What exactly is she becoming? One afternoon, Zeus calls a council of the gods. Clouds gather gently around the highest halls of Olympus. Light filters through in shifting patterns of gold and silver. The council is not dramatic. No crisis demands attention. Instead, Zeus simply wishes to observe how Athena participates among them. The gods gather. Athena stands among them, and the tests begin again. A dispute arises between minor deities over the control of a mountain pass used by mortals. A decision must be made. Zeus listens first. Then Poseidon offers a forceful opinion. Hermes suggests compromise. Apollo considers harmony. Hera emphasizes order. All voices contribute. Then all eyes shift toward Athena. She does not rush. She observes the structure of the disagreement. She identifies underlying needs. She separates pride from necessity. Finally, she speaks. Her solution is neither harsh nor weak. It preserves dignity while preventing future conflict. It satisfies no one completely, yet it resolves everything. Silence follows her answer. Not disbelief, not disagreement. Something closer to recognition. The council continues, but something has changed. The gods have seen not just Athena's intelligence. They have seen her function. Zeus watches carefully. There is pride in his expression, but also something else. A quiet awareness that Athena does not belong entirely within any existing category of divine power. She is not force. She is not chaos. She is not even wisdom alone. She is applied understanding. Wisdom in action. After the council, the gods disperse. Athena remains behind for a moment in the empty hall. Sunlight falls across marble floors. Dust motes drift through golden beams. The silence feels vast, and in that silence, she senses something subtle, not spoken, not visible, but present. Expectation. The gods are no longer merely observing her. They are beginning to rely on her. That realization carries weight. Far below Olympus, mortals continue their lives unaware that divine structures are shifting above them. Yet even they begin to feel subtle changes. Sailors report calmer decisions made during storms. Artisans find sudden clarity in their craft. Leaders in small city-states begin speaking of wisdom as something almost tangible. Stories travel faster than understanding, and Athena's name begins to spread quietly through human mouths. Not yet worship, not yet temples, but recognition. A presence felt before it is fully named. That evening, Athena walks alone along a terrace overlooking the world. The sea stretches endlessly below. Clouds gather far on the horizon, hinting at future storms. An owl circles above her head once, then lands on a nearby column. Watching, always watching. Athena studies it for a long moment, then speaks softly, not to the bird, but to something beyond it. I am not only what I was born from. The owl does not respond, but it does not leave either. The wind moves gently through the columns, and somewhere deep within Olympus, unseen and unspoken, a new balance begins forming. Wisdom is no longer an arrival. It is becoming a force, a presence, a guide, and the world, both divine and mortal, is beginning to adjust to it. The first winds of winter begin to stir across Greece, not yet harsh, not yet dangerous, but noticeable in the way the air sharpens at dusk and in the way distant mountains gather faint veils of mist. From Olympus, the world below appears both vast and intimate. Rivers trace silver lines through valleys. Forests darken as evening approaches. Cities glow faintly with early hearth fires. Ships move carefully along shifting seas, watching the sky for signs of change. Athena now looks toward that world more often. You stand beside her as she watches from the highest terraces of Olympus. There is no urgency in her gaze, only attention, the kind of attention that does not miss anything. She has begun to notice something subtle. The gods influence mortals constantly, yet mortals also shape the meaning of the gods. Without human understanding, even divine power remains incomplete. This realization does not come as revelation. It arrives gradually, like light spreading across water at dawn. One morning Athena descends alone, not in thunder, not in spectacle, but in quiet movement through mist and cloud. The journey takes her beyond Olympus into the world of mortals. She does not announce her arrival. She simply appears where she is needed. The first place she visits is a small coastal settlement. Stone houses cluster near a narrow harbor. Fishing boats rock gently in the water. Seabirds circle overhead. The air smells of salt nets and smoke from early cooking fires. A dispute has arisen among the fishermen. Lines have been crossed in the sea. Boundaries between fishing territories are unclear. Tension grows. Voices rise. Anger builds like incoming storms. Athena observes before intervening. She stands among them unnoticed at first. A woman in a simple cloak, a traveler, a stranger. She listens carefully to every argument. Each side believes itself justified. Each side believes the sea belongs to them in some way. But Athena sees what they cannot. The problem is not ownership, it is understanding. The sea does not divide itself according to human need. It follows its own rhythms. At last she speaks. Her voice is calm, measured. She does not command. She explains. She describes patterns of fish movement, seasonal currents, the way certain waters belong to migration rather than possession. The fishermen grow quiet as she speaks, not because she is forceful, but because what she says makes sense in a way they had not considered. The conflict dissolves, not through authority, but through clarity. A young fisherman asks who she is. Athena does not answer directly. Instead, she leaves the harbor as quietly as she arrived. Only later do they notice something unusual. An owl circling above the water long after she is gone. Word spreads, not quickly, but steadily. A woman who brings understanding to confusion. A stranger who resolves disputes without force. A presence that feels both human and more than human. Elsewhere, Athena visits a mountain village troubled by drought. She studies the land, the cracked soil, the weakened streams, the desperate prayers offered at small shrines. The people there believe punishment has come from the gods. They fear divine anger. Athena does not confirm or deny their belief. Instead, she guides them toward practical action. She suggests new channels for water, different planting cycles, shared responsibility among households. Simple changes, yet changes that restore balance over time. When rain eventually returns weeks later, the villagers remember her differently, not as a miracle worker, but as someone who understood what needed to be done before others could see it. From place to place, she travels. Harbors, villages, small emerging cities. Everywhere she goes, patterns begin to form. Wisdom applied to human life becomes something more than abstract thought. It becomes civilization itself. Ancient Greeks would later see this as central to Athena's identity. She is not only a goddess of intelligence, she is a goddess of cities, of organized life, of shared structure, of human cooperation. As her influence grows, so too do the stories about her. Some travelers claim she appeared during storms to guide ships safely home. Others say she stood beside judges in early courts, whispering clarity into difficult decisions. These accounts vary widely. Historians continue to debate how much reflects early worship and how much reflects later storytelling. But all versions agree on one thing. Her presence brings order where there was confusion. One evening, Athena returns to a hill overlooking a developing settlement. Not yet a city, only the beginning of one. Simple walls, scattered homes, a growing marketplace. She watches as people work together to build something larger than themselves. For a moment she remains still. The wind moves through grass at her feet. The sky burns orange with sunset. And then she senses it. A direction, not spoken, not commanded, but understood. The path forward. Athena begins to realize that her role among mortals is not accidental. It is necessary. Wisdom must not remain isolated among gods. It must be shared, practiced, lived. Far above, Olympus continues to observe. Zeus watches her movements carefully. There is pride in his gaze, but also something deeper. A recognition that Athena has begun to move beyond even divine expectation. She is no longer only his daughter, no longer only Metis' legacy. She is becoming a force in her own right, a bridge between power and understanding, between gods and mortals. That night, as she stands alone beneath a vast sky, Athena looks upward. Stars scatter endlessly above her. The owl appears again, silent as always, settling nearby on a stone. She does not speak this time, neither does it move. But the silence between them feels different, less like mystery, more like agreement. Somewhere in the distance, a city will one day rise that bears her name. But for now, she simply stands in the space between worlds, watching, learning, becoming. And the mortal world, unaware of the full meaning of her presence, continues to shift quietly toward the order she carries within her. Winter settles more firmly across Greece. Snow gathers on northern mountains. Winds sweep cold across the Aegean. In coastal cities, smoke rises from chimneys, and hearth fires burn longer through the night. The world feels slower now, quieter, more deliberate. And beneath this seasonal stillness, Athena's influence continues to spread among mortals. You walk with her through places where human life is shaped not by war or fear, but by creation, craft, skill, careful work of hand and mind together. The Greeks would later see Athena not only as a goddess of wisdom, but of making, of shaping the world through intelligence applied to matter. In a small workshop near a growing city, she watches a weaver struggle with a complex pattern. The loom stands tall, threads stretched tightly across its frame. Wool and dyed linen hang in careful arrangement, yet the design remains incomplete. The worker pauses repeatedly, uncertain how to continue. Athena observes in silence. She does not interfere immediately. Instead, she studies the pattern, the structure of the weave, the logic hidden within color and repetition. Then she speaks, not as command, not as correction, but as suggestion, a subtle shift in sequence, a different way of thinking about the thread rather than forcing it. The weaver tries again. This time the pattern flows. What once felt impossible becomes natural. The loom sings softly with movement. The Greeks often associated weaving with fate itself. Threads of life, threads of destiny, threads connected in ways not immediately visible. Athena understands this connection instinctively. To weave well is to understand order, not imposed order, but discovered order. From the workshop, she moves to a harbor. Ships rest against wooden docks. Ropes creak in the wind. The smell of salt and tar fills the air. Shipbuilders struggle with a design problem: how to balance strength and speed in a vessel meant for long journeys. Athena studies the structure of a half-built hull. She runs her hand along the wood, feels its grain, its tension, its weaknesses. Then she suggests a change in curvature, a different placement of reinforcement beams, a subtle adjustment in proportion. The builders hesitate, but they trust the logic of what she says. When the ship is completed, it moves through water more smoothly than any before it. Word spreads quickly, not as miracle, but as understanding. Athena begins to be associated with craft itself, not just intellectual wisdom, practical intelligence, the ability to transform thought into form. In another settlement, she encounters potters shaping clay beside open fires. Their vessels crack too often during firing. Losses frustrate them. She studies the clay mixture, the temperature of their kilns, the timing of their work. Then she offers guidance. A change in composition, a slower heating cycle, a different shaping technique. Again, improvement follows. Not instant perfection, but steady refinement. The kind of progress that builds civilizations over generations. Ancient Greeks later understood this as essential to Athena's identity. She is not only wisdom in theory, she is wisdom in action. Wisdom that creates tools, structures, and systems that endure. As these small transformations accumulate across regions, something larger begins to form. A pattern of civilization. The idea that human life can be organized through intelligence rather than chaos. That communities can function through shared understanding. That knowledge can improve survival. One evening, Athena stands at the edge of a growing settlement. The sun sets behind distant hills. The sky burns with deep reds and fading gold. Smoke rises from dozens of hearths. Children run between houses. Workers return from fields. She watches all of it quietly. And for the first time, she sees something beyond individual acts of guidance. She sees continuity. What begins as small improvements becomes structure. What begins as structure becomes culture. What begins as culture becomes identity. The mortal world is learning to think, not instinctively, but collectively, and she is part of that transformation. Not its ruler, not its owner, its catalyst. Far above, Olympus continues to observe her progress. Zeus watches in silence. He no longer sees only his daughter. He sees a principle taking form, wisdom embedded in action. Metis lives within her still, but something new has also emerged. Independence, the ability to move between worlds without losing identity. Even Hera, once uncertain, begins to recognize Athena's role with reluctant respect. There is balance now, not perfect, but forming. And in mythology, balance is never static. It is always becoming. One night, Athena returns to a quiet hill overlooking the sea. The wind moves steadily across tall grass. Below, ships drift slowly toward harbor lights. The world feels orderly in a way it did not before. An owl lands nearby, as always silent, patient. Athena looks toward it, and for a long moment neither moves. Then she speaks softly, not to the bird, but to the world itself. Order is not given, it is built. The owl tilts its head slightly, then remains still. Somewhere beyond sight, mortals continue shaping their future without knowing how closely they are being guided. And Athena, armored not only in bronze, but in understanding, stands at the threshold between divine thought and human making, watching the birth of civilization take shape through quiet hands. Spring returns again, gentle and patient. Snow retreats from mountain slopes. Rivers swell with meltwater. Fields across Greece turn soft green beneath warming skies. The air carries the scent of blossoms and wet earth, and the world feels as though it is breathing once more. Athena moves through this changing season with quiet awareness. You walk beside her as she travels between emerging settlements, where human life is beginning to organize itself into something more permanent. Small cities are growing, walls are being raised, markets are forming, and everywhere she goes, the idea of order follows. Yet even as civilization takes shape, another question begins to rise beneath it. Not spoken, not yet visible, but present. What is the true foundation of a city, power, or wisdom? The answer has not yet been decided. And Olympus, always watching, prepares a test. It begins subtly, a rumor carried by merchants traveling between coastal towns. A sacred city is to be founded, a city that will become great among mortals, a place where worship, law, and identity will converge. The gods take notice immediately. Such cities matter deeply in Greek imagination. They are not only places of human life. They are reflections of divine favor. And so a question emerges among the immortals. Which god will claim this new city? You stand among the gods as the discussion unfolds. Poseidon speaks first. His voice carries the weight of the sea. He claims dominion over coasts and harbors. He believes his gift should secure the city's loyalty. Athena listens without interruption. Zeus does not decide immediately. Instead, he allows the question to unfold naturally. A test is forming, not of strength alone, but of value. The location chosen for the city lies upon a rocky hill overlooking fertile plains and a nearby sea. The land is promising, but not yet defined. It waits, like possibility itself. Two gods step forward to offer gifts. Poseidon strikes the ground with his trident. The earth trembles. A saltwater spring bursts forth from the rock. The water is powerful, impressive, but it tastes of the sea, brackish, harsh, unfit for daily life. Then Athena steps forward. She kneels beside the soil, places her hand upon the earth, and plants something simple, an olive seed. Nothing dramatic occurs at first. No thunder, no shaking ground, no spectacle, only silence. The other gods watch. Mortals nearby observe in confusion. Time passes, days, then weeks. Then, according to ancient tradition, something extraordinary happens. The seed grows, slowly, but steadily. A tree emerges, strong, resilient, evergreen. Its fruit offers nourishment. Its oil provides light, food, and healing. Its wood endures. Unlike the sudden force of the sea spring, the olive tree represents something different. Sustainability, patience, civilization itself. You can feel the meaning within the story as it unfolds. Poseidon's gift is power. Athena's gift is life that continues. The Greeks would have understood immediately what this contrast represented. Force versus cultivation. Chaos versus order. Short-term impact versus long-term survival. Zeus watches the scene carefully. The decision is not announced immediately, but something shifts in the balance of divine attention. The city is named Athens. The name itself becomes a symbol of what has been chosen, not the sea's force, but the olive's endurance. Yet even here the myth does not present simple victory. Poseidon does not disappear. His influence remains. His anger is not erased. Ancient versions of the myth describe storms striking the region afterward, as though nature itself reacts to the unresolved tension between gods. Some traditions say reconciliation occurs. Others say rivalry continues beneath the surface. Historians continue debating these variations. What remains consistent is the symbolic outcome. Athena's gift defines the city's identity. As the olive tree grows, mortals begin to understand its meaning. They gather beneath its shade. They press its fruit into oil. They use it for light during long nights, for healing wounds, for sustaining life. The tree becomes more than a plant. It becomes a foundation, a quiet structure upon which human civilization depends. Athena stands nearby during the early days of the city's formation. She does not claim ownership. She does not demand worship. Instead, she observes. She listens. She watches how humans begin shaping laws, customs, and shared spaces. This is where her influence becomes most visible, not in spectacle, but in structure. The Greeks would later see Athens as the embodiment of her principle, a city where thought guides action, where law balances strength, where wisdom shapes identity. One evening, Athena stands alone near the growing city. The olive tree she planted sways gently in the wind. Its leaves shimmer silver green beneath the setting sun. Children play nearby. Builders continue working even as daylight fades. Life continues, quietly, naturally. An owl appears once more. It lands on a branch of the tree, watching, as always. Athena looks up at it, then toward the city, then back toward the horizon. A subtle realization forms within her. This is no longer only about gods. It is about continuity. What is planted today will shape generations not yet born. The olive tree will outlive those who first gathered beneath it. Just as wisdom outlives the moment it is spoken. The wind moves through the branches. Leaves rustle softly. And somewhere beyond sight, the balance between divine power and mortal civilization settles into a new form. Not conflict, not dominance, but coexistence. And Athens begins its long journey toward becoming a reflection of the goddess who chose patience over force. The years begin to gather quietly across Olympus. not in the sense of aging or decay, for the gods remain eternal, but in the sense of memory, of accumulated experience, of choices that shape the rhythm of divine life. The story of Athena's birth has not faded. It has settled like a permanent constellation in the sky of myth. You stand with Zeus in the higher halls of Olympus during a calm afternoon. Light filters through tall columns, turning the marble floor into a shifting pattern of gold and shadow. Outside, clouds drift slowly above distant mountains. The world below continues its endless cycle of seasons, unaware of how much the divine order has subtly changed. Zeus is no longer troubled by pain. The hammering is gone. The pressure within his mind has disappeared. In its place is something quieter, a reflection that never fully leaves him. Athena stands among the gods now, not as a new presence, but as an established one. She is no longer questioned in the way she once was. Her counsel is sought, her judgment respected. Her presence has become part of the structure of Olympus itself. Yet Zeus still watches her differently from the others, not with suspicion, not with fear, but with something more complex. Recognition mixed with memory. One afternoon, he calls her to walk with him along a high terrace overlooking the mortal world. Below them, Greece stretches endlessly. Rivers thread through valleys. Cities glimmer faintly in the distance. Ships move across sunlit waters like drifting thoughts. The air is calm, almost still. For a long time, neither speaks. Then Zeus breaks the silence. He speaks of Kronos, not as a warning now, but as memory. He remembers swallowing his children. He remembers the fear that drove him. He remembers the prophecy that shaped his actions. And he admits something few rulers ever do. That fear can distort even the strongest will. Athena listens carefully. She does not interrupt. She does not judge. She simply listens. The wind moves gently across the terrace. Far below, an owl circles once above the distant landscape. Zeus notices it. So does Athena. But neither comments. After a long silence, Zeus speaks again. This time about Metis, the goddess of wisdom he once swallowed. The act that seemed necessary. The decision that changed everything. He says he thought he had contained fate, but instead he may have created something greater than himself. His voice carries no pride, only reflection. Athena turns slightly toward him. When she speaks, her words are measured. Wisdom, she says, cannot be contained. It only changes form. The statement feels simple, yet it lands deeply. Zeus does not respond immediately. The idea lingers between them like a steady light. Ancient Greek audiences would have understood this moment as a turning point in divine understanding. Power alone cannot control destiny. Even the king of gods learns from what he once feared. The conversation shifts slowly toward governance, toward judgment, toward the future of mortals. Zeus begins asking Athena for her perspective more often now, not as test, but as consultation. Her answers remain consistent. She does not seek dominance. She seeks balance. She does not argue for power. She argues for structure, for clarity, for systems that allow life to flourish without collapsing into chaos. The difference becomes increasingly important. Olympus is no longer ruled by force alone. It is increasingly guided by understanding. Later that evening, Zeus walks alone through a colonnade filled with fading sunlight. He pauses beside a carved stone pillar. For a brief moment, he places his hand upon it and remembers something unexpected. Metis, not as fear, not as warning, but as presence. He realizes something that had been forming quietly for years. Athena is not simply his daughter. She is the continuation of what he once swallowed. Not destroyed, not lost, but transformed into action. Wisdom internalized has become wisdom expressed. The realization carries both comfort and unease, for it means that what he tried to control has become the foundation of his own rule. That night, Athena returns to the sacred spring once more. The moon is full. Its reflection shimmers across still water. The owl is there again, as it so often is. This time, Athena does not simply observe it. She speaks softly, not to the bird, but to the idea behind it. I understand now, she says. The water ripples gently, and for a moment it feels as though the spring itself listens. Far away, mortals continue building Athens. The olive trees grow stronger each season. The city expands slowly, but steadily, not through conquest, but through continuity. Athena's influence becomes increasingly woven into human life. Law, craft, judgment, strategy, not imposed from above, but discovered within human necessity. And Olympus, once a place of absolute divine authority, becomes something more complex. A place of dialogue, of balance, of shared wisdom between generations of gods. Zeus looks upon this transformation without resistance. For the first time, he trusts not only his power, but the intelligence that shapes how that power is used. Athena stands at the center of this shift, not as challenger, not as threat, but as bridge between fear and understanding, between force and foresight, between the past and what comes next. And as the stars rise over Olympus that night, there is a sense that something fundamental has changed. Not ended, not concluded, but stabilized, like a storm that has finally learned how to become rain. The world of mortals grows more complex with each passing season. Cities expand along coastlines. Roads begin to connect distant settlements. Trade spreads ideas as much as goods. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, human life begins to resemble something structured rather than scattered. Athena watches this transformation closely. You walk with her now beyond the familiar boundaries of Olympus into regions where human ambition and human fragility exist side by side. It is here that her influence deepens most meaningfully, not among gods, but among those who struggle. In this age, heroes begin to emerge, not yet the legendary figures sung in full epic poems, but individuals marked by unusual potential. Men and women who face problems too large for ordinary solutions. A storm at sea that refuses to end. A dispute between cities that threatens war. A monster reported in distant wilderness. A collapse of order in a young settlement, still learning how to govern itself. Athena does not arrive as spectacle. She arrives as thought, as clarity appearing at the edge of confusion. One such figure is a young leader in a coastal city struggling with internal division. Factions argue endlessly over resources, trade, and governance. The city teeters on the edge of collapse, not from external threat, but from its own inability to agree. Athena observes first, always first. She listens to speeches in crowded assembly spaces where voices overlap and tempers rise. She walks through marketplaces where citizens argue in passing. She stands quietly beside harbor walls where fishermen debate fairness and survival. She sees the pattern forming beneath the chaos. The problem is not disagreement. It is lack of structure to contain disagreement. One evening, as tension reaches its peak, she appears beside the young leader in private. There is no thunder, no announcement, only presence. The leader initially believes her to be a visitor, perhaps a messenger or advisor from another city. Athena does not correct the assumption immediately. Instead, she asks questions, careful questions, about the city, its resources, its conflicts, its hopes. Through this, she reveals the hidden structure of the problem without imposing authority. The leader begins to see what he could not see before, not through instruction, but through guided perception. The solution emerges gradually. New systems of decision-making, shared responsibilities, clearer boundaries between competing interests. Not perfect, but functional. When Athena departs, the leader asks who she is. She gives no name, only a final observation. That order must be maintained not by force, but by understanding why order matters. Then she is gone. The story spreads quietly afterward. A woman who solved conflict without demanding control. A presence who brought clarity without claiming credit. Elsewhere, another figure encounters her during a journey through mountainous terrain. A warrior returning from a failed expedition finds himself lost in confusion and despair. Athena appears not as warrior, but as guide. She does not offer victory. She offers perspective. The understanding that failure can refine judgment more than success ever could. Such encounters accumulate across Greece. Different regions, different individuals, different problems. Yet the pattern remains consistent. Athena does not replace human effort. She enhances it. She reveals what is already possible, but unseen. Among the gods, these developments are observed with interest. Apollo notes the increasing order among mortals. Hermes speaks of improved communication between cities. Demeter observes more efficient agricultural planning. Even Ares, though less comfortable with subtlety, acknowledges the reduction in unnecessary conflict. Athena is changing the mortal world, not through domination, but through refinement. One evening, Zeus and Athena stand together on a high terrace of Olympus. Below them, the mortal world stretches beneath twilight skies. Lights begin to appear in cities and villages. Small points of warmth against growing darkness. Zeus watches quietly for a long time. Then he speaks. He asks whether she feels burdened by the role she is taking among mortals. Athena considers the question carefully. The wind moves gently across the terrace. Far below, the sea reflects fading sunlight like broken gold. At last she answers. Wisdom, she says, is not burden. It is responsibility understood clearly. Zeus nods slowly. There is something in his expression that resembles acceptance, or perhaps recognition that what has emerged cannot be reduced to concern or control. Athena is not merely part of Olympus now. She is part of the world below it, a thread connecting divine thought and human action. That night, she descends once more into the mortal realm, not to intervene, but to observe a city preparing for change, a city on the verge of founding laws, customs, and identity that will shape its future. Athens is no longer simply a settlement. It is becoming something enduring, and as Athena stands among its people unseen yet present, she understands that her influence is no longer confined to moments of crisis. It is embedded in continuity, in the slow shaping of civilization itself. An owl watches from a rooftop nearby, as always. Still, patient, Athena looks toward it briefly, and for the first time, there is no question in her gaze, only understanding. The world is learning, and she is part of how it learns. Above Olympus remains silent beneath the stars. But the silence is no longer uncertain. It is steady, like something that has finally found its place. Time moves differently when a story begins to become memory. Seasons still pass across Greece. Winter fades into spring. Spring deepens into summer. Summer softens into autumn. But beneath these familiar cycles, something more permanent is forming. Worship, recognition, a relationship between mortals and Athena that no longer feels new, but increasingly necessary. You walk with her now through a landscape that is no longer only myth, but also early belief. Small sanctuaries appear first, simple stone altars beside roads, offerings left beneath olive trees, quiet prayers spoken at dawn before journeys across sea or land. Athena does not demand these things. They arise naturally, as though human understanding has found a shape it can finally give form to. In one growing coastal city, a modest temple is constructed on a raised hill overlooking the harbor. It is not grand by later standards, but in its time it feels significant. White stone columns catch the sunlight. Simple carvings decorate the entrance. An image of an owl is etched above the doorway. You stand beside Athena as she watches its construction. She does not intervene. She does not instruct. She simply observes. Mortals are now building something in response to her presence, not out of fear, but out of recognition. Inside the temple, offerings begin to accumulate. Oil lamps, small crafted objects, written prayers on folded clay tablets. Each one represents an attempt to communicate with something larger than human experience. The Greeks understood temples not as homes for gods alone, but as points of contact, places where mortal and divine awareness briefly overlap. Athena's presence in such spaces feels different from other gods. She is not associated with overwhelming emotion or unpredictable force. She is associated with clarity. So those who come to her temples often come seeking decisions, not miracles. A farmer stands before her altar, unsure whether to plant early or wait for rains. A sailor pauses before setting out on uncertain waters. A craftsman brings a broken tool hoping for insight into repair. Athena does not answer aloud. Yet those who listen carefully begin to find understanding within their own thoughts. This is how her influence spreads, not as command, but as recognition within human awareness. One evening you move through the temple as twilight settles over the harbor city. The sea beyond the cliffs is calm. The sky fades from gold into deep indigo. Inside, the air smells of oil stone and faint smoke from recent offerings. A priest carefully arranges objects upon the altar. He pauses suddenly, as though sensing something unseen. Then he looks upward. The owl is there again, perched above the inner chamber, watching without movement. Word spreads quickly through the temple. The goddess is present, not physically, but symbolically. The owl has become more than an animal. It has become a sign of attention, of awareness, of something that sees beyond ordinary sight. Outside, Athena stands upon the temple steps. She watches the city below. It is growing, expanding, becoming something structured rather than scattered. Roads are more organized, trade more regular, disputes increasingly resolved through shared systems rather than constant conflict. This is what she has guided indirectly, not through decree, but through the quiet shaping of thought. And yet, even as temples rise in her honor, Athena remains aware of something important. Worship changes perception. It can clarify, but it can also simplify. Mortals will begin to define her through symbols: owls, armor, olive branches, wisdom, war, craft. Each symbol useful, each symbol incomplete. She does not resist this process, but she observes it carefully. Meaning always becomes narrower when it is expressed. That is the nature of human understanding. As night deepens, a festival begins in the city below. Torches line the streets. Music drifts through open spaces. People gather to celebrate protection, prosperity, and guidance. Athena is honored without spectacle, without fear, with respect. You walk with her through the festival unseen. She moves among mortals as a presence rather than a participant. And yet wherever she passes, conversations become more thoughtful. Disputes soften. Laughter becomes more balanced. Even celebration seems more structured. At the center of the city, a large fire is lit. It reflects against temple stone, against water, against metal vessels raised in offering. For a moment, Athena stands at the edge of the gathering, and the owl appears again. This time it lands on the highest beam of the temple, visible to all, no longer hidden. The crowd grows quiet, not out of fear, but recognition. Something is watching. Something is present. Athena observes this silently. The moment passes. The festival continues, yet something subtle has changed. The city now knows it is seen, and being seen changes behavior. That night, as the celebration fades, Athena stands alone once more upon the temple steps. The sea reflects scattered lights from the harbor. The wind carries the scent of salt and burning oil. She considers how her presence has evolved. Once she was born from necessity within the divine world. Then she became counsel among gods. Then guide among mortals. Now she is becoming something else again. A structure within human understanding itself. Behind her, the temple stands quiet. The owl remains, still watching, still waiting. Athena speaks softly into the night. Not to the owl, not to the temple, but to the world itself. Understanding is not given. It is practiced. The words disappear into the wind, yet they feel like instruction, or memory, or both. Above the stars remain fixed and distant. Below, the city continues its quiet transformation, and in that space between divine presence and human becoming, Athena's role settles into something enduring, not arrival, not departure, but continuity. The seasons turn again across Greece, though time now feels heavier with meaning than before. What once was only myth has begun to settle into memory. What was memory is becoming tradition, and what is tradition is slowly becoming something closer to truth for those who live beneath the changing skies. Athena's presence is no longer questioned, it is interpreted. You walk through the world of mortals and gods as the story of her origin begins to multiply in the telling. Not because the truth has changed, but because understanding never remains singular. In different cities across Greece, different versions of Athena's birth are told. In one place, she is described as the pure expression of Zeus's intellect, born fully formed from divine thought. In another, she is seen as the final transformation of Metis wisdom, preserved rather than consumed. In coastal regions, storytellers emphasize the storm and the hammering, the breaking of Zeus's head, as if the sky itself had opened. In inland sanctuaries, priests speak more softly, focusing on the symbolic meaning of wisdom emerging from pain. Historians continue to debate how these variations developed. Some believe they reflect older local traditions woven into Olympian mythology. Others suggest they evolved as teaching stories, each emphasizing a different aspect of Athena's meaning. But within the myth itself, all versions coexist without contradiction. That is the nature of divine storytelling. Truth is not erased by variation. It is expanded. You stand beside Athena as she listens to these many interpretations. She does not correct them. She does not deny them. She simply observes how meaning shifts depending on who is telling the story. This understanding becomes part of her identity. Wisdom is not fixed. It is refracted through human perception. One afternoon, Athena visits a sanctuary where scribes collect early versions of sacred hymns. The air is cool inside the stone chamber. Scrolls and clay tablets line the walls. The scent of ink and parchment fills the space. Here, the story of her birth is already being written in multiple forms. The scribes pause as she enters. Some feel awe, others feel uncertainty. None can fully describe what stands before them. Athena watches as one scribe carefully writes a line describing her emergence from Zeus's head. Another nearby version describes Metis still speaking from within. A third emphasizes only the moment of lightning and breaking sky. All are different. All are preserved. The goddess does not choose between them. Instead, she recognizes something deeper. Each version reveals not what happened, but what people need to understand about what happened. In this sense, myth becomes a mirror. You begin to realize that Athena herself exists in more than one form, within human imagination. Warrior, counselor, craftsman, protector. Each culture emphasizes a different aspect depending on its needs. To sailors, she is guidance at sea. To artisans, she is precision and skill. To rulers, she is judgment and order. To philosophers yet to come, she will be reason itself. The multiplicity is not confusion, it is depth. Later that day, Athena walks through a grove outside the sanctuary. Light filters through olive branches. The wind carries the scent of resin and earth. An owl circles above, then settles quietly nearby. She speaks to it softly, as she often does now, not seeking response, only acknowledging presence. Even I am many things, she says. The owl remains still. The statement carries no conflict, only acceptance. Meanwhile, among mortals, the story of Athena's birth continues to spread into new regions. Traveling merchants carry it along trade routes. Sailors bring it across islands. Poets reshape it in performance. Each retelling adapts the myth slightly, emphasizing different meanings. In one telling, Zeus's fear is central. In another, Metis' wisdom dominates. In another, Athena's emergence is framed as the birth of civilization itself. No single version becomes absolute, and perhaps none is meant to. Ancient Greek culture often embraced this fluidity. Myth was not a fixed account. It was a living language for explaining existence. As Athena observes this unfolding diversity, she begins to understand something subtle about her own nature. She is not confined to a single narrative. She is expressed through many. That realization does not diminish her identity. It expands it. One evening, Zeus and Athena stand together once more on a high terrace above Olympus. The sky is clear. Stars scatter across infinite darkness. Below them, the mortal world is dotted with faint lights. Cities, villages, hearth fires, each one a point of human continuity. Zeus speaks quietly about how the story of Athena has changed over time. He notes the variations, the contradictions, the interpretations. Athena listens, then responds with calm certainty. Stories, she says, are not vessels of fixed truth. They are paths toward understanding. Zeus considers this for a long moment, then nods slowly. Far below, an owl glides across the landscape, barely visible in the night. A final echo of the symbol that has followed them from the beginning. Not as warning now, but as presence, as awareness, as continuity. The myth of Athena's birth no longer belongs only to Olympus. It belongs to those who tell it. And in that telling, it continues to evolve, not away from truth, but toward meaning. As the night deepens, Athena remains on the terrace after Zeus departs. She looks toward the world of mortals once more, not as something separate, but as something intertwined with divine thought. And for the first time, she understands that her origin is not a single moment. It is an unfolding, from Metis, from Zeus, from prophecy, from interpretation, from memory itself. And somewhere beyond the stars, the story continues to be rewritten in the minds of those who listen. The night over Olympus is calm now. No storms gather. No thunder answers hidden pain. The heavens stretch wide and silent, filled with steady stars that seem to watch without judgment. You stand within this quiet with Athena and Zeus as the long aftermath of prophecy settles into something more stable. Not resolution, but balance. The kind of balance that is not perfect but enduring. Athena has grown beyond the moment of her birth. She is no longer defined by emergence, no longer defined by pain. She has become presence within the structure of Olympus itself. Yet something deeper is still unfolding. You sense it in the way Zeus regards her now, not as threat, not as creation, but as counterpart. The king of gods once feared succession. He once feared the cycle that destroyed Kronos. He once feared that wisdom might conceal future overthrow. But now, that fear has softened into understanding. Athena does not move toward him as rival. She moves beside him as something else entirely. A stabilizing force, a principle made visible. One evening, Zeus calls her again to the highest terrace. The wind is gentle. It carries the scent of distant rain over the sea. Clouds move slowly along the horizon, like drifting thoughts that have finally learned to rest. Below them, the mortal world continues its expansion. Cities grow more structured, laws more consistent, trade more predictable. Even conflict among humans begins to take on patterns rather than chaos. Athena watches this silently. Then Zeus speaks. He says something unexpected, that Olympus feels different now, less uncertain, less divided between fear and authority. He admits that for a long time he ruled through strength shaped by fear of repetition. fear of Kronos, fear of being overthrown. But Athena, he says, has changed that balance. The words are not ceremonial. They are reflective, honest in a way few divine statements ever are. Athena listens without interruption. When she finally responds, her voice is calm as always. Fear, she says, creates reaction. Wisdom creates direction. The difference is not power. It is understanding what power is for. Zeus nods slowly. The meaning settles between them like quiet light. In this moment, Olympus feels less like a throne of absolute authority and more like a system of shared principles. Not equality in rank, but harmony in function. The Greeks often imagined order in this way, not as dominance of one force over all others, but as alignment of different forces towards stability. Athena represents thought. Zeus represents authority. Together, they create structure. But even this balance carries uncertainty, because balance is never permanent. It must be maintained. The conversation shifts toward mortals again. Zeus remarks on how cities influenced by Athena appear more stable over time, fewer cycles of collapse, more continuity. Athena replies that stability is not the absence of change. It is the ability to absorb change without breaking. This idea lingers in Zeus's mind. Later, as the evening deepens, Athena remains alone on the terrace after Zeus departs. The sky above is vast and still. Stars shine with distant patience. Below, the mortal world continues to glow faintly with scattered life. She reflects on everything that has unfolded since her birth, from the moment of splitting pain, to emergence, to discovery, to influence, to understanding. Each stage feels less like a beginning and more like a layer added to something already unfolding. And then she notices something subtle. An owl appears once more. It does not land this time. It circles slowly above Olympus, then moves toward the horizon, not toward the gods, but toward the mortal world. Athena watches it go, and for the first time she understands that wisdom does not remain fixed in one realm. It moves between gods and mortals, between thought and action, between fear and understanding. She turns back toward the terrace, and the wind shifts slightly, as if the world itself has acknowledged the transition. Elsewhere, Zeus stands alone in a shadowed corridor of the palace. He remembers Kronos, not with fear now, but with clarity. He sees the pattern that once controlled him, and sees how it has changed. Athena did not destroy that pattern. She transformed it. The swallowing of Metis becomes something else in memory. Not an act of containment, but an act that allowed wisdom to take form within authority itself. The realization is quiet, but complete. The balance of Olympus is no longer fragile in the same way it once was. It is dynamic, living, responsive, and Athena stands at its center without seeking dominance. That may be her greatest difference from all who came before. She does not fear succession, because she is not built from fear. She is built from understanding, and understanding does not need to rule. It only needs to guide. As the night reaches its deepest point, Zeus and Athena meet once more in silence on the terrace. No words are spoken at first. Only the wind, only the stars, only the world below them, continuing its slow evolution. Then Zeus speaks one final thought, not as king, but as father, and as witness, that perhaps the greatest danger was never the prophecy itself, but the fear of prophecy. Athena does not respond immediately. Then she simply says, "Wisdom begins where fear ends." And in that moment, Olympus no longer feels like a place waiting for destiny. It feels like a place that has learned to live alongside it. Night settles over Olympus with a stillness that feels almost complete. The storms have passed. The pain has ended. The fear that once echoed through marble halls has softened into memory rather than presence. Above the sacred mountain, the stars shine without interruption. They do not shift. They do not tremble. They simply exist as they have always existed, watching silently over gods and mortals alike. You stand at the end of this long journey with Athena, not at an ending of events, but at an ending of transformation. Everything that began with prophecy has now unfolded into understanding. Zeus remains upon his terrace, looking out over the world he once feared losing. The memory of Kronos still exists within him, but it no longer governs him. It has become part of a larger awareness, one shaped by experience rather than fear. Beside him, Athena stands quietly. She is no longer the shock of birth, no longer the rupture in divine order. She is presence, stable, certain, and yet still becoming. Below them, the mortal world stretches into darkness and light. Cities glow faintly along coastlines and rivers. Paths connect distant settlements. Fires burn in homes where people sleep, dream, and plan futures they cannot yet see. Athena watches all of it, not as ruler, not as distant force, but as something closer, a guiding intelligence woven into the fabric of human life. Zeus speaks softly, not with command, not with authority, but with reflection. He says that when Metis was swallowed, he believed he was ending a threat. Instead, he may have been allowing wisdom to grow where it could never have grown otherwise. Athena listens. The name Metis is no longer a wound. It is origin. It is continuity. The wind moves gently across Olympus, and for a long moment, neither speaks. There is no need. The story has already spoken itself through all its transformations. Fear became action. Action became consequence. Consequence became wisdom, and wisdom became presence. Athena steps forward slightly, looking toward the horizon, where stars meet the edge of the world. She reflects on what she has seen among mortals, cities forming from scattered lives, order emerging from confusion, understanding slowly, replacing reaction. She understands now that this is her domain, not because she chose it, but because it reflects what she is. Not force, not fear, but clarity that shapes what follows. The owl appears once more. It does not circle. It does not land. It simply passes between Olympus and the world below, as though marking a final boundary. Athena watches it disappear into the distance. And in that disappearance, something completes. Not an ending, but a settling. The long chain of prophecy that began with Kronos, passed through Zeus, and unfolded into Athena, has reached a state of equilibrium. The cycle is no longer repeating. It has been understood. You feel this as a quiet descent, not into darkness, but into rest. Zeus turns away from the edge of the terrace. His steps are slower now, not weakened, but relieved. The weight he carried for so long has become something he no longer needs to hold. Athena remains for a moment longer. She looks once again at the mortal world, at the faint lights scattered across distance, at the unseen lives continuing beneath the sky. And she understands something final. Wisdom is not only what is known, it is what remains after fear has passed, after thunder has ended, after prophecy has been fulfilled and transformed. She turns back toward Olympus and walks beside Zeus, not behind him, not ahead of him, but in step. The wind quiets, the stars remain, and the world divine and mortal alike rests in a new kind of order. Not perfect, not final, but enduring, as though something ancient has finally learned how to breathe without tension, and in that breath everything becomes still enough for sleep.